Hello and welcome to Mini Terrain Domain. I'll be the guest host tonight, Connor Davies from Dice on Ice. Tonight we're playing Spire. This is our second session in this world, in this RPG system, uh, written by Rowan Deck and Ricard, I believe is how. Rowan Rook and Deckard, my bad. A really cool looking RPG, really fun to play. We're really diving into it now, exploring the intrigue and mysteries that are in this just mega hive city tower place, ruled by the indomitable. Oh, sorry, I guess indomitable Elfir, and the huge cast of dark elves who live in the underbelly of the city. I think we'll just dive right in and into it tonight. Start with a recap. So last session was a session about going out your own separate ways, all four of you, going down and tracking down different leads and bonds of contacts that you might have. Where Wexton and Cross talk to a gutterkin to figure out what is going on about the area. Lycaos had talked to his contact, who's a member of the city guard. Sorry, no, other way around. Iskandar. Yeah, Iskandar went to talk about the city guard. Lycaos himself went to actually investigate the crime scene, the of the exploded workshop, finding some strange hints of bizarre activities in the area, and further in following them still found himself in a very strange place, a place called Uncanny Alley, where the ectoplasm of Spire White ghosts haunted the place and almost drove him mad, but thankfully he kept his wits, was able to get out of there to report back. In Saren, you used your abilities to disguise yourself, um, to almost make the universe think that you're someone else, and communicate and talk to and glean information from a Church of the Gun preacher, a brother that was talking gospel in the streets and heeding word of a new crusade happening in the short future. And after meeting back and talking about your different discoveries, you've gone back to the scene of the crime, the workshop, discovering a basement beneath, a cellar stocked with paltry supplies and housing the paramour of your own landlord, a hyena-headed thing called a knoll, a creature from a land far to the east, with a culture as strange as the Alfirs, though a bit maybe more understandable. And we left off our game with the four of you following Lycaos's path to Uncanny Alley, but only discovering that nothing is there. It is merely the headquarters of a branch of an institute of science and technology. Nothing at all like what Lycaos had discovered uh, moments or earlier that day. And so we'll hop in there. Um, how do you feel, Lycaos, as the path that you've walked, path that you've followed, even the signage that you've gone leads to a place that it shouldn't lead to? That perhaps you seem wrong in this case.
Yeah, like Chaos will let out like a bit of a frustrated huff. Just it's like he'll just look. Um, he's like simultaneously like confused, but like not necessarily surprised. Like this day has already been full of very strange things. We've literally like seen a knoll, and he's had like the souls of the damned scream into his ears, and like all this sort of stuff. So it's like this is just one extra step on a day that's already been like, ah, come on. So it's to kind of like see that what he had promised his friends was here is not here. He'll just kind of like raise an eyebrow after letting out the exasperated huff and just kind of like look over to the others like this place sucks. And just kind of like sit. He won't say anything, but he'll just kind of give them that nod of like, it was here, I promise.
Instead of this uncanny alley that Lycaos would know of, the sight ahead of you is this large brass and bronze, almost observatory, though it has no giant telescope to look to the heavens. It is surrounded by a moat of molten slag. The heat of it and the light of it just wafting up. You see its red river kind of flowing around. A long bridge goes from its entrance across this moat, though definitely not where you're standing. You can see inside that the activity probably has waned. There are less people, less busy bees of people bustling around, as it seems to be the time of evening where those who have a family will go to them and rest in their homes. And those who do not have families will, of course, go to wherever they need to go in solitude. And so it's quiet, as you can see a lot of the uh, technologists, mostly human, them all, packing up their things, almost walking single file across this moat bridge to wherever they live, up Spire or down Spire.
Were we following tracks that had led us, or that had originally led Lycaos to?
Yes, they were tracks that were leading away from the explosion scene, footprints in the ash and soot that became more subtle things that only Lycaos could really follow.
And now are they completely gone now that the.
Yeah, they're gone without a trace. It seems. Even you, Lycaos, you're like you can't quite glean where the tracks would go from here.
Is this like the kind of thing that could have been expected, like that streets appear and disappear, or is it something that's really unusual? As in, like, would I have heard of this happening before, maybe, or?
This is you are so used to hearing the work, like things being really rigid. The only
Yeah,
way that streets would really change is like there's a collapse that happens, or and like
yeah.
people have
There's
to
no sign of
rebuild.
that. Right?
No, this is a very strange occurrence.
Hmm. So Skander doesn't know much about strange occurrences, and so he'd look to the rest of the team, who are all more knowledgeable and equipped to deal with that kind of thing. He won't say anything. He'll just give this look of like, who's going to explain what happened here, as if like one of them must know.
Saren would just shake her head.
Perhaps you ingested some of that spore, Lycaos. Do you feel ill in any way?
He'll just kind of like shake his head. No, it's definitely not that. At least I don't think so.
So
There are
what?
plenty of things that I would mistake. I won't claim that I would ever be perfect, but there are things that I'm very good at, and this is one of those things. Whatever happened here is, like we all know, weird stuff happens in this place. Not always at this level of weird. He'll kind of like gesture in front of him to like the normal looking street that like it would only look weird to him. But and just kind of like frustrated, they trail off.
We should keep this in our minds, but we need to figure out what to do now. The tracks are gone.
That was our best lead.
Connor, can I use my nose for trouble? And once per scene, I can ask the GM what's weird or out of place.
Absolutely. The thing that you notice that seems out of place, you see a patch of spire white, this strange, bulbous, like mucus-colored fungus growing off of a signpost. And the way it grows, it seems to almost be clipped off um, in a way. And the seam between where this giant like fungal tumor and like just this nothingness is. It's almost like it looks like a really bad like a bad Photoshop job almost, where it just seems to end.
Lycos, here's some more of that Spire White. Let's see if it leads us to anything. It looks a little weird to me, and I'll take out my ink pen and kind of like prod it with my cap.
And you can see very clearly in close examination that it's literally just like cut off in a section, like the shape of the letter D. Half of it's just missing.
It seems as though someone has cut off part of this. Looks much too unnatural to be anything else. Can I try to investigate it further, or I mean, I'm looking all around. It just looks cut off. It doesn't look like there's the other part anywhere.
Yeah, so you kind of look around for maybe its other piece, if it's fallen off and withered or something. But as you begin to investigate, you move another step in, and it's the feeling of walking through wallpaper that you feel as the scene in front of you begins to peel away as you walk into it, like it was covered in thin wallpaper, and like you can even like see it rip and begin to scrape along to the ground, revealing a quite gruesome sight beyond. You see the derelict and abandoned, quarantined street that Lycaeus once saw earlier. It is in ruins. A strange green haze fills the place. Spores and dust cling in the air. The ceiling of this street is high up, but covered in strange and crisscrossed rafters that all hold the bulbous spire-white growths. It's a very, very ruined place. This place seems to be, and then you can just see like literally the scene that you saw earlier of like the academy. It seems to be just like almost like a painting, where you can just rip off these pieces of the illusion to reveal what's really behind.
Do the rest of us see this like tearing effect, or is it just him?
Absolutely, yeah. And it's a strange sight to behold.
Yeah, like Chaos will like not know what to do with that. Like he has this feeling of simultaneous feeling of like, oh God, thank God I'm not crazy, but also like I'm crazy. Like something is not right here. No matter which way this works out, it's bad. But he'll kind of like take a defensive stance, like almost subconsciously at seeing this like wall tear away, basically, before kind of going through, and he'll kind of like clutch down at his dagger as if he was going to like fight off this illusion with a blade, but kind of step up next to Wexen, and he like wants to say, "I told you so," but he like can't even bring himself to like make any quip about kind of the overwhelming oddity.
And when you step through Lycaeus, you see that familiar sign, little signpost, Uncanny Alley.
Perhaps you are not as intoxicated as I assumed. Iskander, Saren, come in. And can I see them through the tear, or?
Yep, you can see them through the tear. Though looking back through the tear, it's as if there's nothing covering the two places at all. It's like a one-way illusion, essentially.
Yeah, I'll call them to come and experience this for themselves.
Saren would walk through the tear. Seen some strange things in my day, but this is hiding an entire street. That must have taken a lot of work, a lot of time.
could be very useful if we could control it, do something with it. Iskander will say, trying to make himself feel braver than he is, as he like walks through this tear in reality.
And the seam between these two places doesn't seem to quite line up. The haze and the spores and the dust that hangs in the air ends abruptly where the old street ends. Perhaps you are stepping into a different place entirely, into Spire, or perhaps there's some wall that keeps the spores and dust out, but the air is just quite different. The smell is acrid and dusty and decrepit, where before it just smelt of slag and sweat of dozens and hundreds of thousands of workers.
Yeah, like Chaos will attempt, probably quite poorly, if you were to like look at him, to hide his discomfort and his fear with like practicality, and he'll just kind of like look over to the others and say, "Now that we're back here, I left a marker a bit up the way, one of the buildings that stood out. I think that might be where we need to go." He'll just like say as if nothing is wrong, but clearly on his face you can see that he's off put by everything here too.
Is this like a known name of a street? Are there stories about it or anything like that?
Never have you heard of the name Uncanny Alley.
Wexton is furiously scribbling notes, trying to, sorry. Just mentioning, this story. My readers are going to eat this up. Uncanny Alley.
Well, wait a second. It might be worth keeping this to ourselves. If there's a way that we can use this and move it, it would be an excellent place to run and flee and hide and escape and strike from.
If we did not make it, I would not think we should escape here. Likely someone else is using it as an escape themselves, and I don't think I want to run into them.
Well, I suppose we can find out. He'll say, and then he'll start walking forwards, and if there's any like doors of broken shops or anything that looks slightly less dusty or ruined, that might have a trace of a person that's been there recently, that's where he's going. He'll also draw his shotgun.
The buildings that you pass by, there are many of them, but all of them seem abandoned. The wood is rotten on their hinges, and the stone and metal that hold them in place are crumbling and rusted. Roofs and ceilings caved in, walls collapsed. Places even just held fast and glued together only by this strange white tumor mass that is the Spire White. The ground itself is, you're walking not directly on road for a lot of times. You have to climb over rubble. These patches of strange ooze they have to navigate around. Else you'll sink your feet and boots deep into this strange black tar. There seems to be no wind in this place, no sound beyond just your own footsteps. But every now and then you'd catch words being said, though why you hear them as words is almost as confusing as what they actually say themselves. Sinister. Sinister. And you hear that through a dozen different voices over the course of 5 or 10 minutes as you walk down this place. No voice ever is repeated. And then you see a figure leaning against a wall, hidden and obscured by shadow, in a shop, perhaps, or an apartment on your left.
Okay, I have my gun. I have this like sawn-off shotgun. And I'll kind of just, I guess it's like in the inside of my coat, and I'll put my hand on the inside of my coat as if it's in a pocket, and then start moving in that direction towards the figure. And I'll call out.
The figure does not respond to you calling out. It seems to just stand there leaning against the wall.
Oh there, friend. How's your family?
No response.
He'll look back towards, notably Lycaeus, for him to like do the usual flank around to the other side, just in case approach.
Yeah, like Chaos will do so. Kind of try to slip off and work his way around to get like behind where this figure is, so that they can kind of keep eye contact between him and Iskander, and then kind of work in and decide what needs to happen as we figure out who this person is and such.
Yeah, and as you go behind this building, you realize that all of you are all mixed up, overlay-wise, and we'll need to do some readjusting for our cameras. As this place seems to be a bit not
Roll
even
sanity.
Yeah. Everyone but Connor, turn your camera off. Then Jeff. And Philip. And Lloyd. Perfect.
Perfect. So yes, you flank around like chaos, and as you leave the earshot and eyesight of your group, you get almost like a hairs on the back of your neck stand up again. As maybe you're imagining it, you hear the same skittering sound happen above you. You heard when you were alone in this place before. You have to climb behind this building. Otherwise, it's a difficult climb. You have to climb over masses of Spire white, over rubble and ruin, but you're able to kind of get a proper angle on the cross from Iskandar. How about everyone else? What does everyone else want to do as they approach the figure?
I think that Saren would shift uncomfortably, and you can see that she's kind of, her muscles seem to be twitching ever so slightly, but I think she would walk a pace or two behind Iskandar if he is approaching the figure. She doesn't take any weapon out just yet, though.
And Wexton's going to try to find like a doorway to crouch in, knowing what's impending, and whip out his notebook and begin taking notes, just trying to get a glimpse at who the person is, writing down details of this person, and just like documenting whatever the
Sure. You find a building across the street from this one that has an open doorway. You're able to kind of crouch in it and get a good vantage. And so, Iskandar, as you approach, this figure does not respond in any way, shape, or form.
Does he look like a drow? Or does he look like he's made of this same stuff?
From this vantage, you still can't tell. He seems like he's kind of inside the building a bit. The way the shadows are cast from the strange light in this place obscure most of their features almost entirely.
Okay. I'll keep approaching and I'll call out again. Sort of friendly in the hopes that it's more like a I'm coming, don't be surprised. And like making lots of noise and continue approaching, see if I can get a better look at him.
Iskandar!
That's right, he says with much more confidence than he feels.
The figure takes a step out of the shadow. It's a shambling step, one that you might expect a person who has forgotten how to walk would make. And you see, as they come out and step out to the light, their skin is translucent. It's shrunk to the bone. It's what you see ahead of you literally seems to be like some kind of mummy, the way it's been just shrunk, and just blotting the entirety of half of their body is this masses of spire white fungal growths that stretch from the top of their head down to their body, always on the one side of the body, on his left side. I can't even tell if he even has left arm anymore, and his left leg is weighed down heavily. And as he takes a step forward, he reaches out to you with bony fingers. His eyes no longer exist, or perhaps they've shrunk or shriveled or evaporated or been eaten by some strange creature. He loses his bearing, his balance, and collapses with a sickening crunch at your feet. Does not move nor twitch.
Yeah, I'll skitter back pretty quickly from that, and I'll just make sure to bring up I think we usually have one anyway, but like the cover over my mouth and nose. We were told that this stuff is quite flammable. Is that correct? What's his name? Who runs the warehouse told us to keep fire away from it. Am I remembering that, or did I make that up?
That sounds believable. I trying to remember.
I think it was that he hadn't, not that he had warned us to keep fire away from it, but that we might consider using fire to get rid of it if we could. I think was what he had said.
Okay, right. Okay, so I don't want to like fire my flintlock gun and have it explode the corridor we're in. Okay, I'll stumble back from where I am, obviously quite freaked out by this, and like look down at the form and wonder like if this is what this thing does to people, then we do need to be much more careful with it, and we need to get it out of our hideaway pretty quickly.
Yeah, the Spire White epidemic is quite fairly new in everyone's knowledge. Even the newspapers are just only recently writing about it, and to see a whole place just taken to it and been quarantined off, despite it not being a recent occurrence, or despite Spire White being quite recent, is almost as jarring as just seeing a broken man devoured by the stuff in front of you. Because this place looks old and far lost.
And it's like a mushroom, right?
Yeah, it's a weird mushroom, yeah, but it doesn't grow in like shelves or caps. It just kind of makes these weird, literally just tumor stuff underneath the skin. And even how it grows on buildings, it seems to actually like stretch out the brick to form a weird like tumor on the brick and stone and metal itself, getting on the appearance of whatever metal it was attached to or substance.
We should try and talk to the academy, the university, someone who might know something about this thing, because we don't know anything. If he's not moving anymore, and he seems like done, like he's collapsed and that's all he had in him, I'm gonna step over him and into the building he was in.
This place is thick with that strange white dust as you step over. And as you kind of maybe perhaps look around, you can see that this is an entryway, a foyer. To the left is an actual door that leads to a larger chamber. It's lined with shelves, so perhaps it was either a library, perhaps, or a store that sold trinkets and goods. But as you kind of take more looks around, I need you please to make a resist roll. As
oh dang,
your hand, your foot is snatched. This will be resist plus, I guess, just resist here. Yeah.
Okay. Do I have anything for this? Is it? Okay, yes. I just wrote resist, right? So it's just a D10.
Yep.
A 1. That's bad.
A 1 is bad. As you feel a hand grip around your ankle, this is a critical failure getting this 1. So it's going to be marking double stress instead of regular stress. And the grip itself is almost in a unearthly, unliving strength, as he seems to crush both just to break the skin and crush the bone underneath its seams. As you take, I rolled pretty low here, 3 points to your blood stress.
Blood. Okay.
Yeah. And here I will roll for fallout. And so all of your unallocated stress, you can tally it all up and tell me the total. And I'll try to.
Okay. How do I do that?
Okay, so this is the only stress you've ever had.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so you have a number of blood slots available to you based on what class and endurance you had. It could be 0. It could be 0, but I think that a firebrand plus duelist probably has some amount of blood resist.
Resistances. I have 3 reputation, 1 shadow from firebrand.
Okay.
Okay, and then where's that? Sorry about this.
So if your firebrand doesn't give you any of them, perhaps you won't.
What was I? Duelist, yes. Nope. It gives me fight and high society, but no.
Fight and high society. Awesome. So yeah, so you'll have no blood slots available to you beyond what your armor is, and I believe you have probably 1 slot from armor.
If you have armor, you can...
Thought you made your character. No.
I don't have armor. I just have weapons. Just so many weapons.
You would have the ministry armor.
Okay.
Actually, no. A firebrand doesn't get any armor.
Oh,
yeah.
Weird.
Yeah. All right. You take a full 3 directly blood stress then. So you can write a 3 down in your blood stress area because you don't have any boxes to check. And then what you do is tally up all the stuff that's unallocated, so I'm not counting any boxes you filled, amongst all your stresses. But here you probably only have the 3 blood stress.
Just the 3, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to roll a d10, and if I roll under the amount of stress that you have, a bad thing happens.
Oh boy. Okay.
Yeah. And I roll an 8, so you're fine. This actually didn't impair you in any way. You're able to kind of like shake it off, but you can feel the skin perhaps in the future. It'll form a rash as whatever thing touched you. It'll probably have dire consequences in the future, but now you're fine. He's able to kind of break away with a kick, solid kick. And the arm would kind of fracture off as you break free from it. It's brittle like a twig. And you just hear a strange kind of groan. Iskandar! From the decrepit body, now still unmoving. Though somehow it had reached around to grab you.
Yeah, I'm going to point my shotgun at the head and...
All right, cool. And that'll be enough to just blow its brains in. Just you can see whatever gooey insides it has, it's thickened from time, mummification, and whatever enzymes and digestion this strange fungus does to people. What is inside this thing does not seem like what's inside a normal person when you fire a shotgun at them, which is also sickly and gross smelling. It kind of leaves a strange odor in the area long after this shot.
Yeah, I mean, I'm determined to get into that building and see, like, he thinks there must be a reason that he was in there and that he was calling him there. Like, Iskander definitely thinks that there's some sort of, like, fate, like, destiny thing happening here, that this, like, street appeared to them and no one else, and, like, that they're here and no one else is. Like, there must be some meaning there. And so he'll move towards that building, like a siren song call.
Yep. Inside, there's just rows of shelvings, and inside the shelves, on top of the shelves, I should say, you do see, covered in the dust and the dirt and the even cobwebs, though the cobwebs do not shape spidery patterns. They shape what a schizophrenic spider might make. Are books, in fact. You see 2 books of note. Their titles kind of covered in dust, but if you wipe them away, you can see one says The Lords and Ladies of Amaranth as its title. In the other, it seems to be a smaller novella. It's titled Around the Spire in 80 Hours.
Okay. Are any of those titles familiar to me? No.
No. I mean, if you've read this book before, perhaps, then
Yeah. They're not like famous.
no.
Okay. Yeah, I'll take them from the shelf, and have another quick look around to see if there's anything else that like I've missed in here before I head back to the others.
When you do look around, you can see that the place seems. Actually, you can. Right, the place just seems very untouched, even by after this long time. Things are just dust filled. Your footprints are clearly notable in this place as you're just like kicking away almost sand amount of dust and grime. The place has a back quarters which looks moth-eaten, fallen in, rusted, and rotten away. There's nothing of value, it seems, in here. Everything's bare bones beyond those 2 books sitting on the shelves.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, once he gets the books, you'll head back out to the others and show them what he found.
I think while Iskandar was in the building, Saren would have knelt down by this body and not touching it, just would have been looking it over, seeing what kind of clothes it was wearing, if any. Like trying to see any defining feature of maybe who they were or what they were.
Awesome. This will be a bit tricky to do because of both the tumor masses of Spire White and the precariousness of the situation. You'll have to make for me an investigate roll.
Okay. So because I have a skill in that, what does that?
You'll see you have normally 1 base dice, but you have the skill investigate. You get to roll a 2nd dice and take the higher of the 2 numbers.
Okay. That's a 7.
7 is success at a cost. So you succeed in finding out who this person was, though perhaps a bit of an errant knife or an errant look, or even just a mistimed puff of one of these tumor spores at you. It makes you reel back. Your lungs burn a bit. Your eyes are irritated. You take 2 points of blood stress from this.
Of course.
But you are able to find out that this man seems to be wearing some kind of leather lab coat. Sorry, a white lab coat with leather gloves. Though it's all moth-eaten, threadbare in places where the fungal parts have grown through from the flesh, through the clothing. And notably, it looks to be, you can see a badge or a sigil or some kind of stitched in part of it, where it would be GEI, an acronym thereof. Sorry, AGE, age. Sorry.
Okay. And is he a drow? Can I discern that?
Well,
or was?
The body is so far gone, but skin color lost all its pallor. The ears are not pointed.
Can't. Okay.
So perhaps, but the fact that the ears are not pointed perhaps would suggest a human. But even then, it's, could the ears have just been wilted away through time and decay? But human would be your best guess.
Okay.
This building that Iskander has gone into, is it the same one that I had seen the first time that I kind of marked as like the place that I had gotten up to, or is this a
No?
different?
This is less far than the building that you have marked.
Okay, yeah. With that, then I think Lacheus would kind of turn. He'd make his way back, I think, across to the others now that this figure has been dealt with, and presumably hasn't seen anything else urgent, and will just kind of let them know. I marked an even stranger building up ahead, if you can believe it, assuming that it's actually still there. He'll say.
And we'll pause a moment as I roll for Saren's stress. As I roll a 1, which will be lower than your total 3.
Oh no.
As you are going to experience a fallout in your blood category from this
Well, I
minor
also
investigation.
had 1 mind stress as well from the
Yes.
previous game.
The incident that puts you over will be the kind of stress it gives you,
Oh, okay.
which is kind of cool. So, your total stress is below 4, right? So you can receive a minor fallout.
Mm-hmm.
So you get to remove 3 points of stress right now from any pools you wish, as you receive a minor fallout.
Can I split them?
Yeah,
Like 2 from
absolutely.
one,
Yeah.
1 from another? Okay. Cool.
And so you notice that the spores, as they've dug into your flesh, leave these long lacerations, as if they were made of glass or shrapnel. And before you know it, you are bleeding from this place, but it's a slow bleed, not a quick one, not a laceration thereof. So until you get proper medical care, each time you make an action, you'll have to mark 1 stress to your blood before you roll your dice. But this will never occur, or sorry, will never trigger a fallout roll. This 1 point.
Okay.
And so yeah, an action would being whenever you roll dice, it would be you'd automatically take 1 blood from it as you exert yourself.
Okay. So I imagine that Saren is looking, you can see her crouched over, and then all of a sudden she reels back, clutching at her face, crying out rather loudly. And you can, even though her hands are covered her face, you can already see the blood seeping in between her fingers just slowly.
At hearing you scream, Wexton will kind of rush over. My goodness, Saren, are you okay?
That the Spire White, it did this. We have to be careful. And she would pull her hands down, and you would see all the lacerations from the spores.
This is a dangerous place. Shouldn't linger here. I think even breathing it. We should go.
We don't have what we came for yet.
We need to continue on. I'll be all right. Just be careful. Don't breathe and don't get too close.
Skittering happens above that all 4 of you hear.
As we kind of stand over, I'll like flick the empty shells out of my sawn off and put 2 more in. And just sort of like idly scratch where I had been grabbed, wishing that we didn't have to stay here.
Wexton will pocket his notebook, pull out his pistol, and put his shirt over his mouth and nose.
So do you advance towards, or do you advance farther into Uncanny Alley, or do you retreat hoping to be better prepared in the future?
I don't know that we'd get back here, so I feel like we have to go on. But like Chaos seems to know where he's going or like what he's looking for, so I would fall in behind him.
Mm-hmm.
Same.
All right, so you press on, and the voices on the wind, even though there is no wind, still continue to scream their sinister, which passes both through your ears and through your minds simultaneously, creating a strange harmonic that causes your teeth to rattle. But like Chaos, you see it. The place you've marked, your chalk mark, or perhaps an errant log or an errant piece of rubble that you've placed to mark it as your own place or as a place of note. You see it ahead. It is this tall building. You actually don't see the roof. It goes so high. It has many floors, many stories, but though it is quite thin, perhaps only 20 feet or so in width.
Yeah, like Chaos will turn to the others and just kind of give that nod of like, "Yep, this is where I was." And I had seen something about this building that made it stand out to me, right? I don't remember what it was last time, to be
I
honest,
believe
but I
it was
remember
that
that
the
there was
door
something.
was quite intact and locked, I believe is what the
Mm-hmm.
and I believe there was footprints leading to and from this door, and the fact that it was not covered as much in soot and grime and dirt, I believe, was the indicator.
Yeah, so like Chaos will point all those things out to the others. You can see, the dust isn't quite as settled. The door locked and on the frame. Seems strange when everything else is so ruined. Someone's been here and is using it.
Should we approach then through the front door? Find somewhere else to get in?
Are there windows and stuff, Connor? And is it like
Absolutely,
Yeah, like Chaos will nod.
black, grimy,
Uh,
dust-filled windows.
Sorry.
Yep.
that being the case, then maybe we want to have no, Jeff's gone, isn't he? Have like Chaos go in through one of the windows, since I think that he's more able to do that. Approach from different angles, I think, is probably the safest thing to do. Like I'll do the door kicking, since that's what I do. But I think like maybe Saren and like Chaos could try something sneakier.
Before everyone heads out, Saren is going to take some of the blood around on her face, and she throws it up into the air, the blood droplets, and you see that they begin to glow, and they fall in almost a perfect circle around everyone. And she is going to do the Lombre's Embrace.
Cool. What's that do?
So everyone gains the sneak skill. And the first time each of you mark stress to shadow during the next situation, you mark half the stress instead. But I take D3 stress. Or I spend D3 stress. What does...
As in roll a d3, and that's how much you take to mind to do this.
To mind. Okay. Okay. Ooh, that's a 3. So that is going to be a 2.
Okay, then I have to roll under a 2 for your fallout.
Yep.
Which means a 1, you're good. Your mind does not break today.
Good.
So all of you have been blessed by the embrace of Lombre, the mistress of the Drow, the patron goddess, who is the dark side of the moon, and her blessing of a grace, subterfuge, and invisibility and silence washes over all of you to be a bit more tact and sneaky.
Yeah. With that, like Chaos will look over to the others and say, "It might be best if I work my way in first, just to keep an eye out. Be easier that way, I think."
Yes,
Unless
but be
there's
careful.
any objections, I'll try to look for a way.
So you're able to see that perhaps you could make an ascent up through the jagged, ruined parts of the wall, and even like the side of the building. There's a staircase you could use to get to a top level of the building adjacent, kind of swing over to the other building. You got an elaborate plan set up to ascend, and you're able to ascend with no issue to one of the windows. It's blacky and grease. Oh, sorry, black and greasy, and can't see inside.
Yes. So as carefully and quietly as possible, I'm going to try to see if I can creak something open on the window, or even just like scrub a little bit off of the grime so that I can see into it. I don't want to just like burst in without kind of knowing what's about to happen. So trying to find some way as quietly and as carefully as possible to get some vision and start to creak this thing open. So
As you wipe away the grease that sticks to this window, you see inside a strange purple glow. It's dark in this room, though perhaps it's because of the grease, but maybe not. You see these vats of this purplish fluid, held in by glass that stretch from the floor to the ceiling. Perhaps these tubes even stretch higher up and lower down than just this floor, but they're quite big. Perhaps they could easily fit you inside, in their diameter. And floating inside these purple tubes, you see these strange masses of something. And as you look closer and realize what they are, the foldedness of them and how wrinkled they are, brains. Many brains attached to brain stems float in these purple tubes. Otherwise, this room seems to be empty for occupants, and a barred door. You see many latches and seals and other security measures on it to bolt it closed.
yeah. So before kind of trying to venture in at all, like Chaos will kind of like look down, and assuming that I'm not so far up and into the mess of this building that I could still like shout down without like having to like scream at the
You're
top of my lungs.
perhaps two stories up.
Yeah, so like Chaos will just kind of let a bit of a louder, not quite a full yell, just in case, but he'll just kind of like, speak down to the others, everything that he just kind of saw. And then he'll kind of lean in close to the window, grabbing onto the ledge, like with his feet at like this weird angle to see if he can get any leverage to pry the window open.
I'd imagine, yeah, you probably have some tools you can use to pry the window open. And so doing so quietly here would require a sneak plus crime roll.
I am quite good at that, as it turns out. Alrighty, so I have both of those things. So would
Yep.
that be
Three dice. Three dice,
dice?
take the best one.
Alrighty, and I don't know if it'll apply here, given the information, but I actually have a knack in sneak as well to approach people unnoticed, like specifically to sneak up on people. So I don't know
Okay.
if people would be noticing us here or not. It's totally cool if we're not going to count that in this situation because
In
we
this
don't
situation,
have
no, there's not specifically a person in the room that you're trying to approach.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, that makes sense. Oh God, that's only just a 5.
5, I believe, overall is a failure. As you're creak and groan, you end up actually you're using probably this god bound lever, crowbar of some kind to pry it open, but the window seems held fast and it bends this crowbar, and it bends in a way that ruins it. Perhaps even see the straining of it shatters it in places, blunts the edges. You're going to be taking some stress to your silver, as this thing was quite expensive to enchant and set up in this way. There'll be 3 points of silver stress as perhaps this wasn't even yours to begin with, that you borrowed from someone else.
All right. Then we'll need to roll Fallout as well.
Yes. Yeah. So mark up all of your unallocated stress and tell me what the total is, and I'll roll under it. Well, actually, I hope I don't roll under it because that would be bad for you.
So that puts me at 5
5.
so far.
Right. And I roll a 7. You're fine. You know what? It was from a friend. Loaning from a friend. You're good.
Yeah, I imagine he'll just like see that it snaps or at least starts to crack and that it won't be any good, and he'll just like huck it off the side of the building and let it like fall down to the party below. Probably a little too close to somebody who would like almost hit on the way down. He'll just kind of shake his head and start looking for another way in. And given that, I'm just going to invoke my class ability of surprise infiltration.
Sure.
And say that if I can't find a way in through the window, that I'm going to find something else, and I'll just do that.
And so your ability is you just have a way to appear on the scene?
Yeah, once per session, I can get into a place as long as there's some conceivable,
Sure.
physically possible way to do so.
And the three of you would see the bound almost just vanish as he scuttles up and away. And like Chaos, you're now on the inside of this room. You hadn't really... You charted out a path that seems almost incomprehensible to anyone else but you, but you're able to climb in through some kind of grate above, sneak down into it, fall down into a dropping, and sneak in through like almost like a furnace line, and you can feel that burning heat through it, and then drop into the room that you were looking for. And you see where you had tried breaking in, but from inside now. You see that strange glow of the purple fluid holding numerous brains. You see that each of these tubes, in more detail now that you're not looking through a grimy, greasy window, they have like these little apparatuses set up where there's like these strange valves, perhaps the size of your fist, or perhaps the size of a brain. And inside this place is just merely a table with what looks to be scalpels, forceps, and other strange doctor/surgical tools. And all of them are covered in strange fluids.
Yeah, so we actually see like Chaos emerge from this vent, like upside down, and it seems like it's impossible, like he's like walking on the ceiling or something. But in fact, then we see like a bit of this like crimson rope that's like tied around his waist that he's like looped up somewhere up further in the vent. And it'll like find a way to like it'll just like pull on the rope, and it'll unhinge like automatically as if he had like tied some secret knot that only he could tie. And in a way he has, and it'll like kind of drop down onto the kind of top level of this platform below, and then kind of taking a quick glance around, we'll then look downwards to see where this door is like barred and locked shut, and knowing that his party lies in wait on the other side of that. We'll try to use the same rope to like loop it around the ledge that he's standing on to try to climb down to the ground floor, so that he can try to let them in.
And this whole building seems to be very vacant. It's not quite as dust-filled as the last building you were in, but it's eerily quiet as well. And you're able to do so. You're able to go down another set of stairs, another floor through these vent systems, avoiding entirely all the locked bar doors that might normally be in your path. But as an infiltrator, you certainly do infiltrate. And you get to the base floor, what seems to be the entryway, though it's behind you is a staircase, a spiral staircase that leads up, one that you did not take down, so you have no idea where it leads to. And your party does wait on the other side.
Yeah, I'll check and see if this door in particular, I'm guessing this one is also barred or locked in some way. I'll do what I can to start deciphering if it requires anything more than just pulling off a bar.
It's
or
just a sliding
trying to lock.
bar latch thing. So, and then click, and then and then now it's open.
Yeah, with a couple of clicks and thuds from the other side. The rest of you will just see the door I imagine creak slightly open. I'll like open it the minimum possible amount that I can so that like you could like squeeze through it just to like prevent any excess noise. Especially like I don't know how stable the door seems to be on the hinges better than most, but I don't want to like yank it and then have it like fall and be like a huge noise. So I'll just kind of barely slide it open enough for people to slide through. And then like just
I think Iskander has just come to expect this. Like this is normal. When we need to get in somewhere, we stand outside and like look around and like whistle and like kick the dirt a little bit and wait for like Chaos to open the door. And when he does, he'll do like one final like look up and down the alleyway, even though there's nobody here. It's just like a learned behavior, and then he'll run in as quick as he can.
Now you enter this tall tower that looks to be almost like a bunch of just small houses stacked on top of each other, as if a child playing with their blocks would make it. But it somehow stands and seems fully intact, despite the ravage of time and whatever calamities have happened in the Spire over the many hundreds of years. The walls are dusty. The paint is chipped. Some wallpaper peels in places. The scuttling and skittering of small insects, perhaps a strange version of a cockroach with 8 legs and only one antennae would kind of walk around beneath your feet. There are paintings on the walls, faded, dusted. If they were brushed away, they'd reveal pictures of drow nobility in various elegant Victorian-style poses. This would be a relic from before the Elfir occupation, a time when Spire was originally ruled by drow in all of their elegance. And the many drow houses would have their places here, but that was a time of history, and perhaps the 4 of you barely know what even the noble drow houses even are, and what their lineages may even be named.
Seeing that will spark some interest in Wexen as he looks upon these aged drow portraits. Iskander, pass me that book you have. What was it, Lords and Ladies of Amaranth? I want to see and compare. Looking to see, if it's from the same time period or not.
The book itself is not. It is a book penned by some Elfir, a scald poet, chronicling literally every name of every possible Elfir, and it seems to be the case. Like, literally every Elfir probably is a lord or lady in some fashion. And so this book is a tome, and the tome is not even organized alphabetically. It's probably organized in some strange Elfir way, in order of aesthetics, perhaps, or even in order of inverse polarity based on the phases of the moon. But this is not at all appropriately timed for the era in which you stand. It's definitely a modern book.
And I'll, just share that information with the rest of the crew.
These paintings are amazing. They're beautiful. And she would look. Saren's full attention is just on these paintings. And besides the dust, they're not marred in any way.
Nope, they're just neglected.
Who would have something like this?
This place is very ancient, like from when the Drow ruled themselves. So that's a long time ago, right? In terms of and so Amaranth is where the Elfir live, right? So the book is just them and not any of the Drow lords.
Correct. Yeah, the
Okay.
book Lords and Ladies of Amaranth just details probably every single elf here.
Amaranth is the very top, right where they live.
Yes, it's one of the very top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't know. A lab? Is this street from another time? Is that possible?
Perhaps lost to time, but how could we be transported in it?
And why does this house look like it's been in use longer than the street, or more recent than the street has?
Perhaps we've stumbled upon another sect of the ministry. Didn't you say yourself, Iskander, this would be a great place for a hideout?
If you had the means to control it. We don't, but if someone did, it would be an incredible place to go to. And it seemingly appears here of its own volition. Could it appear somewhere else? If so, it's something the ministry needs to know about, and quickly.
Agreed. Wexen is just continuing to take notes on the lords and ladies portraits that we're seeing and the instruments, everything, just constantly writing.
Are there stairs heading to the second floor?
Yes, there's a grand spiral staircase with a dusty but well-shaped banister that coils up. It's painted red, though the green and white kind of dust and grime mar it in a terrible way.
Saren would start making her way up to the second floor.
Yeah, like Chaos would just let out a quick warning of just, I didn't come from the stairs when I came down, and like point to this like impossibly small vent that it doesn't seem like it'd be possible to like maneuver through in any sort of effective way, but let's like point to like indicate that's where he had come from. Not to say this to brag, but just kind of as a warning of like, I don't know what's to you, so that if there is something up there, then at least we can be there to fend it off together.
Saren would nod, but she would continue slowly up the stairs. And probably hugging the banister.
The banister creaks and groans by your presence and your weight, but it does not give way. As you climb the steps, as you can see that you go to another landing, a story up. It's dusty as well, and the stairs continue, of course, another story, but on this one, on this level, you see a set of double doors. This is the only exit there is on this landing, and above it is some kind of placard, gold or platinum or some other bronze, but you can't tell. It's too covered in dust. You see that perhaps would have an inscription on it, but it's hard to read because of the dust itself.
How high up is it?
It's just the next story. Perhaps you're about halfway up the stairs here. So it's another 3 or 4 feet up.
She would continue to be able to read the inscription.
Yeah. And so up close, you probably have to kind of brush it away. And it would say Yeeson Opera Hall.
That's one of them families, huh? one of my families.
Most likely. She would look to the others to see if she should try and open the door.
And to open the door, we'll need to readjust our overlays once more.
Jeff, Philip, and then Lloyd.
The doors are large and imposing, but they don't seem to be locked in any way. A good hearty push would get them open.
So if no one objects, she would push open the doors.
And as you push open the doors, they creak and groan under their massive weight and under the rust that their hinges would suffer over time. Before you is a large room, an amphitheater, an opera hall, massive. It's pristine, bit of mottling of the chairs and fabrics here and there, but it is much larger than this building is from the outside. As you remember, it was a tall, thin, little rickety shack. Inside, this is grand. But in front of you, perhaps, is something even more startling. There's a jade statue of some drow dressed in a suit, and beneath it is a placard. Founded by Lord Iskandar in the year 3792, in dedication to his wisdom and prestige.
Saren would pop her head out of the door. You all need to come and look at this. Particularly you, Iskandar. Is your name the first in your family?
I wouldn't think so. He'll let go. And maybe like the door is open so we can't see the plaque. And then like on the way in, he'll like see this, and it makes sense why the man was calling him by name, but he's confused now. What year is it now?
It is whatever number I said -5. It's the current year. So I think I said 3092, so it'd be 3087 right now, currently.
Does the statue actually look like him? Like if we like do a quick double take?
You'd have to brush away some dust, but it's made of jade. It's somewhat translucent, and it seems to be quite lifelike, actually. It's whoever chiseled this did a very good job. The hardest part to recognize of this person, they're dressed in a suit. It can't be Iskandar. But as you kind of brush away the features, or brush away the dust covering the features of the face, in striking resemblance, yes, it would be Iskandar, though it looks like he's aged and wears a monocle. But yes, you could probably see him being either his brother, uncle, father, son, cousin, or him himself. The likeness is uncanny.
It looks like things go well for me.
I'd say you cleaned up pretty nicely.
Although we did find this place amidst a street full of wreckage and overgrown fungus. Perhaps not so well. He'll just like shake his head. He doesn't even know where to begin in terms of making any sense of this.
Yeah, Scanner doesn't know either, and he's trying to remain cool. Like it's not freaking him out, but it's freaking him out in a major way. Like he has some confidence that he's not going to die in the next 5 years, so that's something, according to this future. But it's all just like way too much for his like simple brain to figure out like what is happening. And so he just kind of looks at the statue and at the opera hall and kind of keeps nodding, but doesn't know what to say.
The silence is broken as a pair of heavy footsteps echoes from the stage of this opera hall. Kuchunk, kuchunk, kuchunk. It is robotic, this noise. An automaton of bronze steps out. Perhaps it looks like tin cans melted together with paper clips, perhaps. It looks strange. Some cogs and bits poke out. A gout of steam pours out of an exhaust up near its torso. Vaguely humanoid with a, but very poor design. And its head is barely a head, just a glass jar, and in it is a brain suspended in purple fluid. Its limbs are accented by these ligaments that flow through it. These ligaments are not tubes nor wires, but seems to be strands of white. Though up and from this distance, it's hard, and from this height, hard to really make out what exactly holds this thing together properly, or what its finer details are. But it mimes out what you could probably imagine an opera might be, though it makes no noise beyond the sounds of its own machinery and the clang of its footsteps as it moves around. It would gesticulate, making grander movements, but otherwise do nothing. But otherwise say nothing, excuse me.
Is brains and jars like an Elfia thing that they do now? No.
Maybe perhaps, but not really. No.
Okay, it's not known.
Maybe there is something behind the stage.
And none of us have seen an automaton like this before either, correct?
Perhaps, Wexen, you have walked the halls of one of the technological institutes of the works, and automatonness is like perhaps a budding technology, though you have probably no actual expertise in that field beyond seeing something that might extrapolate into an automaton of, one of these technologists had made some apparatus automated, like, oh, it's a toaster, but it talks to you, kind of thing, or it toasts the bread by itself, but some analog, a coffee brewer that does it by itself, kind of thing. Nothing to this level.
Incredible! Look at that movement. I'll just kind of slowly be walking closer as I'm scribbling notes, just riveted by this performance of the automaton. Probably making my way, not really trying to be discreet, just enthralled.
I would not commission this. Trap a brain in a jar. I would not allow this or do this. It's not right. What happens that changes me?
I wouldn't be too quick to assume that this is definitely you and that this is definitely the real future. And he'll just shake his head at the absurdity of that statement, but also that it needs to be said.
That statue is me. The name is mine.
And when we saw this place, it was guarded by an illusionary film that fell apart like paper at a touch. Who's to say that all this isn't like that? Something you see in your head, feel in your heart, but is not actually there.
But to put so much work into this, so much detail, for just an illusion.
Why me?
Saren is going to hop up onto the stage, and is going to head to where the automaton was coming from, taking kind of a quick glance at the automaton itself from behind to see if she can, just through a quick glance, see any, like, how it's moving and working.
Yeah, so you approach the stage, perhaps going along the side down these long steps, where the carpet would be velvet at one time, but now is kind of moth-eaten, tarnished, spoiled, rotten, molded in places. You do see patches of Spire white growing in places, in the cracks in the ceiling, in the gaps between the banister itself and the wall, and the floor. As you approach this thing, it does not seem to react to your presence at all. You can peer behind where it came from, and there just seems to be the darkness of what looks behind stage that is unlit. You see coils of rope that perhaps would draw the curtains. Up close, this automaton seems to be made primarily out of brass, though connecting it not only through weldings and cogs and gears and bolts are also these long ligaments of white that, when you are up close, look to be the hyphae strands of Spire white. And they tug and pull with a strange muscular energy to move this thing.
This is Spire white that is attached like muscles.
And you see the brain in the jar is molded, like covered in a mold, the same way that a piece of bread would be covered in mold, and is tumored in the same way that the Spire white tumors flesh. But as you speak, though, the automaton stops dancing. And it would look directly at you if it had eyes. But it stands there still, in your direction, facing you.
Saren is going to begin slowly moving to the side, further back, I guess, into the stage, because it's this automaton is now between her and the front of the stage.
Yeah, I mean, you could, yeah. It essentially is, yes.
So she is going to slowly, without breaking eye contact or without looking at this thing.
And as you shift, perhaps another step, you don't know which step it was that triggered it or what action, but all of a sudden it sprints. But not at you. No, it turns around, sprints off the stage, and it kind of jumps off and then kind of lands in a kind of a rusty heap, and then keeps going, and it bounds up the stairs. It runs past all three of you that are at the top, at the entranceway where the staircase is. And as it leaps through the staircase, or to the staircase perhaps, it rips through the air as if it were wallpaper, and you can hear the sound of creaking stairs, snaps of wood, as it climbs higher and higher up through the staircase. Though it leaves a almost comical, rip into literally reality at the top. It's literally on the precipice of where the opera hall is in the staircase.
It's entirely possible that it's going to get help or more, or wake something, that it guards this place.
Could be one of, we don't know how many of those things. If somebody can make one, they can make as many as they have materials to use.
Well, if I made them, I would definitely make them to also guard the place.
There have been several brains going missing recently. I would wager that's what's happening.
We need to take one of those brains.
Hmm.
If they're yours, can you tell them what to do? Will they listen?
I'll walk out into the hall. Come back.
And so if you step forward to see where the staircase, the spiral staircase that you once ascended, when you look at it now, it looks decrepit. Like parts of the steps have like fallen through, rotten away. It's missing many steps. There's a really eerie green haze that appears over this place. You can see literally the ones that are freshly snapped from the footfalls of this brass automaton that had climbed up them. Um, Almost even the imprint of its strange metal foot on the wood in places. There's no response but the echo of your voice.
I order you, as your master, he says, looking at the others like, return.
No response.
Well, that didn't work. We could try and follow it.
Saren, from backstage here, as you kind of, as this little strange scene of watching the automaton run away up the stairs and back towards the staircase where you came from. Behind you, you're in this backstage area, and it seems quite cramped in here, perhaps like a smaller closet maintenance space. And there's a door, painted red, and its light seems to come from the cracks of the door frame, and it seems to be almost slightly ajar. Perhaps this is where the automaton came through to enter the stage.
She would just go and open the door carefully just to have a look.
And what you see is you crack this door through, or when you look through this cracked door, you see a very decrepit spiral staircase, and across from it is the placard of the Easton Opera Hall, and you see your friends or your people standing on the other side of the spiral staircase from you through this door. And then you can look back and see them way up there, then look through the door and see them directly across. It does not line up at all.
So would they see Saren then open the door?
And Iskandar,
through?
yes, you'd see a door open across from you to see Saren there. And it also seems like a wallpaper tear. As you open the door, Iskandar, you see like kind of like almost a ripping happening to make the door of the frame, the frame of the door, to see Saren there.
He looks to like Chaos with like I don't know, man. I just talk to people. Like, this is so far above my pay grade in terms of weird magic science that's happening. He says, what is happening?
Yeah, like Chaos will just kind of like nervously scratch the back of his neck, looking around. And he's gonna walk up next to where the door that we came through is, not the one that Sarah just opened. I'm just gonna try to find like anything, maybe even the plaque with the scanner's name on it. And I'm just gonna like give it a solid push, like as if it might break away too.
It is solidly there as you feel it cold against your touch.
Yeah, he'll kind of like shake his head back at that. Some things seem to fall away, like they were hardly there. And it'll like pound on the stone plaque right there. Other things sit still. I wish I had more answers, but just kind of shake his head. Like, if you just talk to people, he just like kills people. So he's like not exactly a whole lot more useful in this scenario.
We need to talk to someone who knows more about this type of thing. There must be somebody.
The Academy.
Yes. They would know.
We need to bring something from here the brain is not a bad idea. Or an automaton if we could make it come with us.
Oh, I have a bit of a strange question. If I kind of go up to where this door has like torn away part of the world, can I like grab at the tear and like literally pull a piece off? If you know, like if it's like if the
Yeah, no,
analogy,
yeah.
can I pull a piece of the
You,
wall?
you can have a strip of illusion, essentially, like a ripped piece of paper, but it looks on it what it used to look like before, a bit of wall or whatever.
Yeah, so I'll just like do that. Literally, just like grab what seems like wall in thin air, and then just like pull, and then like be surprised that it actually worked, and then like hold it up like a scroll to Saren and like Iskander, like that are simultaneously right next to each other and on other sides of this hall, in this like bizarro twist, and just kind of like hold it out wordlessly. Like he doesn't even know what to say, and just maybe this will do.
That
That would be
would
useful.
work. Yeah.
And what's really just jarring for your brain to understand is you're used to paper looking two-dimensional. Like if you look at it from the side, you're like, yeah, it has no depth to it. But no matter how you look at this thing, this strip of paper that you hold, it's tactile. It's a piece of paper, but it always looks three-dimensional no matter how you look at it. Like it always like, no, this is definitely a wall. You can see the texture and you just think, oh yes, if I touch it, I can just feel the texture of the wall. But it never works that way. Always some sense is distorted whenever you try to interact it with it in that way. You're able to roll it up, just like a piece of paper, and it feels like a piece of paper would. Light.
Yeah, I imagine that's even what he would do is just like roll it up like a tube, and then like use it to put it as gently as he can somewhere in his pack, so as not to break it. But otherwise, like actually just roll it up and stow it away somewhere. And he'd kind of turn to the others. I'm a bit worried that if we leave, that we might never end up here again. But at the same time, we're in over our heads. I have no idea what's going on. If there's more of those things and they're malicious, and it's just like all these different justifications as to why staying here is probably bad, even though it's like part of him wants to stay and try to decipher the mystery.
If we travel further in, too, we might get lost. Who knows how many rooms, how many... It could be infinite.
Distance doesn't, it looks, in two directions at the same time, really make any sense here. It's a shame that we can't bring anything more. I guess I'll take that plaque that has my name and the opera house, and maybe like a finger from the statue or something if I can break that off.
The plaque itself seems to be pretty hardly welded and bolted to its base, but the statue finger can easily be well, not easily, but through a bit of work and effort, and some actual chiseling and breaking efforts with a hard object, you can snap off a finger of jade.
So the room that I saw when I first came in, these like tubes with these brains in them, how like obviously I came in a very different method than everybody else did. Would it be somewhere that would I'm guessing would that be like up further in? Like we'd have to go looking for that place if I wanted to bring them to it.
From the outside, that room was on the second floor, and this opera house is on the first floor. From the inside. And perhaps realizing what this place does to spaces makes you actually realize why infiltrating in through the vents was a bit easier than you had thought it was.
Yeah, so Lachaeus would bring it up at least that he had seen that room with all the brains and stuff in them, and that at least presumably it would be one floor up, but whether or not it would actually from the inside work out that way is variable. So we'd kind of offer if we wanted to try to go up another floor and see, or if we should just call it right now and leave the mystery for next time.
Maybe you can retrace your steps. Go back through the vent? Or even from the outside. do exactly what you did before.
If we could take a brain, he shrugs.
That's exactly the proof that we would need.
It Lycaos would kind of again nervously scratch at the back of his head. I can certainly try. It feels strange knowing what we know now to venture off alone, but it may be worth it. The risk here in this situation to try.
I will go with you. This is far too compelling for me to stand by like I normally do.
I'm not sure if you'd be able to retrace the steps that I took to get here.
You said it was on the second floor. Let's just go up this way.
We don't know if this staircase actually leads up to say
As you're saying that, I'm like already on my way up. Like, this is reckless Wexen.
Reckless Wexen, you have to almost like mind your step up these steps. Some of the boards are rotten away. You have to like double step on some of these ones because like to really reach up and have to hoist yourself up with the banister. You have to like test your weight on some because one kind of like gives in a bit too much that you're not quite comfortable with it. This whole place seems rotten away, and not at all like how it was when you first climbed up. When you first climbed up, the stairs seemed immaculate but dusty. In this second occurrence of the stairs, it's rotten from base all the way up that you can see. So even for those of you in the opera hall, even going down a floor perhaps would be precarious as the stairs themselves might give way to your footsteps. But if you take it slow and reasonably enough, Wexen, you're able to make it up the next set of stairs, or the next, floor, the flight of stairs, to go up one more story.
Seeing Wexel go and not be swayed by them, but we don't know if and just seeing him go anyways. Lycaos will then try to work his way up as well, following similarly carefully up to ensure that Wexel does not end up there alone.
And on this floor, again, very thin. It's very, very, the whole stairwell is very thin and has only one landing. It has one door. And this door is made of a thick, brassy metal, similar to what you saw, Lycaos, from the other side of that bolted door. And around its frame, you can actually see the frayed and ripped edges of reality, as it seems like it's just been torn away to reveal its true nature. The same way that you ripped, a piece of the wall, a piece of the illusion away, and have in your pocket. And there is that really heavy door, bolted and such. And of course, the stairs go up yet another flight, and probably many more flights after that still.
Does look like the same door that I saw when I came down. It was bolted on the other side.
Is this where the automaton returned? I'll try to press my ear up to the door and listening, see if I can hear anything on the other side.
It's a cold door meets your ears, and it's silent on the other side. Though perhaps, is it silent because there's nothing there, or is it silent because the door is so thick that no sound can penetrate it anyways? You don't know.
I'll try to open it.
And you see that it has a strange, just a doorknob that twists with two hands, almost like a vault. But it goes maybe a quarter of a rotation. It kind of just stops as if it were locked in place and can't go further still. The door's locked or barred or sealed in some way.
You want me to try to climb back down to the floor that we came in on and then back up through? I can try. It'll be a process.
You must do what you must to get the information.
Like Chaos will kind of frown at that. Like he kind of wanted you to just say that it's just not worth it. But seeing that you're continuing to pursue, I'll just nod a couple times. Give me a little bit then, I'll see what I can do.
Iskender, this is your door. Can you unlock it?
He'll approach, I guess. And he'll just try and open it, I guess.
You twist it that quarter rotation and still you hit something as if it were barred. It does not open to your touch. You see
He
that there are
shrugs.
a pair of keyholes above this knob. It's not even a knob. This like strange spinned bar thing.
I guess I'll go back to the stage if that's even possible, and have a look in the back there, like where all the ropes and things are, in case there's like there was a red door I think that I can open to. But in around that area, I'll just have a look around. Now looking for a key.
And you look, and there's nothing of a key nature. There's hooks that you can tie ropes to. There's even props, these wooden and tin painted things with paint is chipped away and faded, that you can pull onto stage or suspend to show some kind of scene. But nothing of the sort of a key.
So I know I used kind of a one-time class ability to kind of find the vent system and get down here in the first place. So I'll just ask then if it would be possible for me to like work my way back through that to get to that second floor again, or if it's
I would definitely say that
through.
you can definitely try, but this will be an investigate roll to try and actually remember to be able to find exactly the path, because as you start to go up this way, you realize that there are many more forks in the ventilation they didn't have to worry about when you're coming down, as paths are always simpler one way than they are the other.
Yeah, I'll try. What would there be any domain or anything for that one?
I probably still crime because you're climbing through vents. I think that's a very criminal thing to do.
Alrighty, that would be 2 dice then, because I do not have investigate. Oh, but that's a 10.
Critical success. You put aside the thoughts of how strange the spaces in this place are. You're able to even note almost now. You know what this strange fabric and wallpaper, what it looks like when you have it up close. You're able to actually see these false exits to these tunnels and avoid them and actually get into the spot where you once were with no issue whatsoever. And you find yourself dropping back down into that place.
Yeah, I imagine it's almost just like he throws away logic entirely and just kind of relies on that gut intuition of like, it doesn't make sense that I'm climbing this way, but I just know that that's what I did, and just kind of ignoring any sense of trying to understand it, and instead just going, and somehow that seems to work for him, anyways. But once he'll drop down back into this main room, he'll try to kind of find down and pinpoint where the door that he had seen was, that he's presuming is what's connecting to the door on the other side that his companions are hopefully actually on. And once he can find it, I'll try to climb or go towards it and see if it's only locked key-wise on one side or if it's locked on this side too.
Yeah, this room that you are in is a very simple room. It has, again, those tubes of brains, the bench with these strange surgical tools on it, covered in strange fluids, and this heavy door with many bars and seals on it. And it's an arduous task, but it's pretty straightforward. You like chink, 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 chink. Because you're able to scrape the door open, as if it's like the highest security vault door in existence. And there on the other side is Wexen, amused by your antics.
Yeah, like I always will like smirk at the fact that he actually made it here, and And like he was half expecting this door to just lead into who knows where. But then seeing that it actually worked, we'll just kind of like shrug and let out a small laugh.
Fantastic, Lycos, and he'll kind of like push past you to go see what's in here. Notebook out, pen already scribbling.
Kind of trying to figure out how you did that. Like you went this way, you ended up here. He's like trying to piece together for a second, like some sort of mental map of this place, but then very quickly just gives up and sort of shrugs and follows Wexen so he doesn't get killed.
Because at a certain point, like Chaos like definitely dropped a significant portion down into the vent to a floor down, and somehow ended up a story up. So perhaps he had made a very large climb, but we know that wasn't true from Lycaos's perspective. And so Wexen, you see, so it's a very dimly lit room full of this strange dust that hangs in the air. There's these big, almost person-wide cylinders of thick glass that hold the purplish serum. Suspending in it are brains. Upon closer look, you can see that the brains on one of them look different than the brains in the other. The right-hand tube has brains that seem to be a bit like that moldy bread appearance that the brain in the automaton had. And each tube has both a little like arm sticking out that ends in capped in a valve. These arms are probably actually like the width of your arm. You could probably fit it through if you had that kind of gumption. And there's a lever that on either side, one for each tube. It is attached by some kind of strange gearbox and an apparatus that fits into the ceiling and the wall somehow, but it kind of boggles your mind. You cannot really have a mind for it, how this would all be set together, mechanically speaking.
I think the temptation to poke and prod, and if there's a hand-shaped hole or arm-shaped hole, I don't think I'll be able to resist sticking my hand in it.
And so there's this valve, and you can feel how it would give away to your hand. Which one do you reach into? The tube that has normal-looking brains or moldy-looking brains?
I would say normal-looking brains first.
And I don't think you've ever actually stuck your hand into molasses, Philip. But that would be the experience that Wexen would feel. It's very thick and mucousy. It takes a lot of force to push through. As it even would cling
like a non-Newtonian fluid.
Just
like the harder I push, the more solid it is. So I gotta go slowly.
Yeah, make your hand as aerodynamic as possible, and you can see that. Oh, there's maybe a brain I could grab if pretty close. Otherwise, your hand suffers no consequence. Besides being immersed fully in this strange serum. But you could probably grab a brain if you wanted to.
I'm gonna feel around for a brain.
And it's done. You have a brain, though it's oddly soft in your hands. I don't think actually Wexen has ever felt a brain before, but it's a lot softer than anyone can imagine a brain actually being. And delicate, too.
Ooh, delicate, so I don't think that I'll be able to pull it out. I don't think I want to pull it out. I'll just kind of like, ugh, and like, well,
what are you doing?
Definitely
Get
brain
it.
in there.
We need it. It's over here.
It might just disintegrate if I try to pull it out.
Well, then we've lost nothing.
Okay, and I'll reach back in and try to pull it out.
And I'll need for you, please, a roll. But it's not a roll to see how well you grab the brain. It's a roll of how well you would resist just how nauseating this task actually is. If you have, it would be a resist plus academia, or perhaps even if you have some domain that you can reason for why you could, stomach grabbing a brain in a strange vat of fluid. Otherwise, it'll just be a straight up resist roll.
I have occult, and I I think that as my time as an investigative reporter, I've seen my fair of gruesomeness, but I don't know if I've touched it. Like touching it is another level.
I like the idea that you're able to hide behind experience dealing with some strange things that you've investigated. You've encountered some gnarly scenes done by blood witches and demonologists and even crazy priests too. And so this isn't the most gruesome thing you've ever done in your life, but it's pretty close. So I will let you use an occult domain for this.
Fantastic. So roll 2 dice.
Mm-hmm. Take the better result.
8.
8 is a success, as you're able to resist the urge, resist how this would wear on a person, as you have in your hands slimy but intact a brain, and the purple fluid kind of slowly drips off of it and drips to the ground at your feet.
Well, get
Your hand
something
is
to
drenched.
put it in, Iskander.
He looks around. What's wrong with your hand?
Does it need that fluid to like not die, or
Is there like a jar we can find, or like a container of some kind?
You could probably kind of rummage through the tools, the surgical tools, and find some kind of glassware thing. It'll have a weird kind of cork to it, and barely fit the brain.
Okay, I'll also like put my hand through to get some of the purple goo and put it, like, fill the container, and then when I pull it back out, put the brain in, and it'll displace whatever is in there, but there'll be something at least.
Yeah, and it's sticky and it clings and it almost like it almost glues your fingertips together. This purple goo, it's a nasty ordeal. But yeah, you have a brain in a jar, though the jar doesn't seem to be at all designed to hold the brain. You can see actually the edges of the wrinkled flesh squeezing against the glass and kind of flattening a bit.
All right, is this enough information? Sorry, is this all we need? Can we leave?
I think we
I
probably
imagine
should.
it's I imagine it's not all that we need, but it's all that I can take. It'll have to do.
Wexen will look forlornly at the white spore covered brains and just kind of look back at the brain in the jar. Yeah. All right, let's get out of here.
This is the descent out of this place is long and careful. Be able to make it to the landing, make it out into the street, as the path that you go to get out of the building is remarkably similar to the one that you came, the path that you took to Kamen. The only notable difference is the integrity of the stairs somehow snapped its fingers and changed in a moment. And ahead of you, you see, of course, this decrepit street, and you're able to follow it. And this is where we're taking our bio break, as you're able to leave Uncanny Alley. So we'll have our little break of about 5 minutes. Go ahead and take your smoke, snacks, and bathroom breaks, and we'll see you back soon. And welcome back. We are back in Spire. And as you guys leave Uncanny Alley, you can't shake the fact or the feeling that you're being watched or followed. But you retrace your steps, and lo and behold, you're out of Uncanny Alley, down in some regular works street, and hearing the humdrum even late into the night. You still can hear the sounds of the furnaces and machines and factories still going at it. It's probably with a skeleton night crew, though none of the works really truly sleeps, as it were. It is the heart of Spire, metaphorically speaking. Spire has an actual heart, but that's a story for another day. What do the four of you want to do now?
I think Saren would be particularly careful with hiding her face, because her face is just all cut up and bleeding. So she's careful to keep it down. Where should we go? I have to get this dealt with. She gestures to her face.
Can't say that I know anybody where we could go to with any of this stuff. Most of the people I know are, and I'll just kind of gesture to the works in general at this level.
I know some people further up, but they're not academics, not physicians.
The company that I had to be in for my durance, who sold me to various Elfir, they got all of us as test subjects from something called the Intelligence. They're the ones who reprogrammed us. I would assume, if you need to know about brains, they might know. I've heard rumors, though. They're not very friendly. I could try and get in contact with my old handler, see if he knows anything.
I'll speak to whoever I can and see if we can end up at least asking some questions to the right people.
And even if those people don't know, they might know someone who knows. The webs of person to person can turn in strange ways around here.
So I'd like to try and use my high society domain to see if I can get in touch with I feel like as a duelist I probably would have met at least physicians, because I would have had to been healed of various injuries and stuff. So if I remember any sort of back alley physicians, or if I remember going to a hospital or something like that, try and find my way to there, or at least someone who knows the way to there.
Yeah, and so the physicians probably most often used in your case are these masked physicians called the morticians, and their knowledge of the body extends from life into well beyond death, though their extensive nature is probably not very well known to you. All they did for you really was stitch you back together and get you in a pretty shape to be able to go and duel again in your lord's honor. And you know the morticians are quite high up in Spire, their base, but they're known and can be seen almost throughout the entire Spire, with little back alley workers here and there, an office here and there, but they're primarily located up in New Heaven, literally the surface on top of the Spire, where the sky is actually visible, and clouds too. But perhaps there's an agent or an office here in the works for workplace incidents and injuries happen. almost regularly in this place. And so someone has to be stitched. Someone has to do the stitching.
Yeah. I mean, there's probably like a union doctor or something for like all the. I mean, union's probably not the right word, but so like somebody who takes care of all the factory workers and stuff. They might know someone. So I'll try and look, and I also want to have all of us try and find out what AGE is, like if that's familiar, that acronym. See if we can find anyone who knows what that is.
In general, I think we should also keep everything that we just saw and did as much on the down low as we can. We should consider everything that we've taken and everything that we saw need to know only.
Yes, what should we do with this in the meantime? And he'll like motion towards the jar that's being covered by his jacket.
Did we come out where we went in?
Yes.
Okay, so we're not so far from our hideout then. So we could probably bring back the weird things and put them there, and then go off and talk to people.
And perhaps try to clean out this white spore while we're here.
That would be wise.
If that white spore, spore is from the future, then if our base is what caused that, be a bad luck for us down the line.
Also, anyone finding a brain in a jar in our hideout would look pretty bad too.
All right. So Lycaos and Wexen are going to go back to the hideout to clear out the Spire White and hide the brain in the jar. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Cool. Then Iskandar will go. Will you go to the? Will you ask around to see where the mortician is in the works and talk to him, or do you want to literally go to the one that might have the mortician that actually stitched you up way back when? That would take more of a journey up Spire, but
It'd be so long, right, to get there.
yeah, it'd take probably like almost a day's worth of travel.
I'll go to the close one, and if he doesn't produce any results, then I'll make my way up.
All right, cool. And you, Seren, you are trying to get in contact with your handler, correct?
Yeah.
And your handler probably located high up in Spire, though maybe in a twist of fate is somewhere else in Spire. But
Well, I'm wondering that even if she can't go and talk to him immediately, get the word out that she would like to speak to him.
how do you imagine you would contact your handler in this way? Would you do it in almost like a professional manner, or even going through a more personal manner, like finding if one of their actual family members and sending the message through them? Or
I think definitely one of the family members. I mean, I would think that Saren and her handler would have gotten to know each other very well. So she would know maybe some of his family or some of their family that would have maybe be even down in the works, cousins or something like that.
awesome.
But maybe first, she would go with Iskandar to the mortician so that she can get her face fixed.
Okay, cool. So yeah, as the two of you will go to the mortician as you ask around, and it's just a skeleton out of people that walk the streets. Very few, and a lot more gutterkin as well seem to be creeping out and around places. The fact that they're even visible is almost an omen of sorts, as gutterkin are usually entirely invisible despite being literally omnipresent. Some scurry around. Some struggle over some kind of strange three-eyed fish that looks more like a frog as they rip it in half and in their tug of war and go on their separate ways after biting each other a bit. You're able to be directed through just like, oh yeah, over there, or what are you bugging me for, kind of directions, to the very somber and morbid-looking mortician's office, where on display like mannequins are mummified people, masked, their skin bound tightly by linens and put into elegant poses, probably catering to an elf-fear demographic that does not exist here in the works. And of course, the door is closed and locked, though there's some candlelight on the inside that you can see through the glass that suggests someone might still be here.
Yeah, I'll knock confidently and loudly.
We're closed!
It's quite an emergency.
And there's a bit of pause. You can see a bit of movement through the glass, though nothing to get too much detail out of. And then a little sliding thing opens near eye level, and you see just a mask, a porcelain mask, peering through. You see just like a little eye hole, though the actual eye is covered in darkness, so you can't really see their eye color. Emergency, you say? How severe?
My friend is injured. I have silver.
Yeah, Saren would make sure that her face is like in the light.
Well, save silver? Come on in. And he opens the door. And you see just in this like trench coat that is bound by buckles in the front, like almost too tight, where it's up to the neck and down, all the way down, cinched up in a mask. There's almost no visible skin to this person. You cannot tell their ethnicity or their race, rather, the race, excuse me. Long gloves, these black leather gloves. As this person looks you up and down. Come to the table, I'll get you patched up real quick.
Thank you.
And then he directs you to this chair that it's like a dentist chair, perhaps, where you kick a knob and whoosh, it lays down a bit too forcefully and surprisingly. And he begins to peer over you with like a lamp. Whoosh, he aims it over your face, and he grabs some twine and some needles and some kind of stapler you're kind of scared to know what it's about, and a forceps and a pair of strange-looking scissors, and begins to just kind of work at your face, idly humming. Oh, dear, what's this? A little thing of tweezers, kind of a little strange growth of Spire white. What is this? Well, what are you? What happened?
I have this rash, he'll say quickly, to cover up. And he'll show where he had been grabbed.
Does it hurt?
Itches.
Well, come back tomorrow, and if it still itches, I'll get you something for it. Now don't breathe. He just like throws a bunch of dust on your face, almost like chalk powder, and you have to resist the urge to both breathe and then cough out simultaneously as you're just like chalked up on the face. And then kind of like with this weird, like an archaeological brush that you might use to like dust away fossils, will like dust away this weird powder from your face. And Iskandar, you'd see, in fact, actually, that her skin looks both fresh like a baby's. No scars have happened. There's no stitchings at all. It seems just like a new face has been put on her. That's exactly the same as the old one, healed up almost perfectly. And I ceded the silver for this service, yes? As props up Saren in this chair, as you're kind of like pushed forward almost unexpectedly.
Yeah, he'll like tap one of his pockets. There's no silver in there. There's like loose bits of metal, but he always does this to like let people know that he has silver, even if he doesn't. And then he'll say, I saw this sign, AGE. Do you know what that is?
Age? Was it an acronym or just a word? You
An
know what I mean,
acronym.
don't you? Oh,
I do. Thank you. Yes.
the Academy of the Gwynin Four? Down the deck next
Of course.
district?
That must have been it. You're right. Stupid of me to forget. Um, we saw. Did you hear about these murders with the brains?
Oh, delightful, yes. Absolutely.
Do you know?
Stunning work.
Is there someone who researches brains and that kind of thing?
Researching brains. It gives me an idea. And he actually like runs off, peels off one of these gloves and like makes that weird popping sound or snapping sound they do with the glove, and he like scribbles something down and like, yes. Oh, and that connects to there. If I redivert this to there, that'll give my lord a sense of smell in his undeath. There we go.
Is there a school that specializes in anatomy or the taking of brains or the study of them? Do you know?
Oh, well, I wouldn't know. I'm just a mere mortician. Where I studied, however, was through the morticians themselves, and, well, you would have no success there. He looks you up and down.
Interesting. Oh, we just heard about these murders, and it's kind of shocking to me. It's disgusting, really. Well, not disgusting, I suppose.
Fascinating.
Yes,
Fascinating.
fascinating is what I meant. Yes. Well, you've been very helpful. Could you maybe do something about this rash?
But tomorrow, of course. I do need some rest.
Well, it would be better if you did it now, actually.
And he kind of like looks it up and all right. And he'll leave the room to go to his like supply closet. He'll like rummage around and snap it all as he drops something by accident on the ground and has to pick it up,
While
leaving you
he's
two alone.
Yeah, while he's looking, Saren is going to quickly just kind of jump out of the seat and just take the quickest look around to see if she can see anything. Papers, files.
All right, cool. You look around, you see that desk that he was like quickly scrawling a note of, and it looks like like almost a Da Vinci style like ink sketch of a person, but it's more like centered in on the brain and like has like this weird thing about how he's gonna snip a part of the brain and like attach it to somewhere else, it's like through the nose or something, and then there's like it's just this illegible script, almost like a doctor's chicken scratch, just impossibly hard to read. Around there's like a window that is the curtain is drawn, so you cannot see out of it. And if you look up, you see, you think it's a mannequin perhaps or some kind of just taxidermied thing. It's a taxidermied high elf with a mask, with her arms outstretched, suspended from the ceiling, just hanging there as a piece of furniture. And of course, there's in this room. This is more of just an actual operating room to just do things in, so there's not less notes. There's a cabinet of files, though it seems to be a bit actually locked. There's some kind of key that would open it or a latch.
Yeah, she's just looking for anything that might stand out to her, but if she doesn't see anything like that, she would just kind of hop back into the chair.
You would see actually as well next to the pages of like the weird brain reassignment idea that he quickly like jotted down from Miss Kendar's suggestion. There is some kind of heavy, thick tome, which has a thick title, long and such. Something, you can't even understand half these words. They're almost gibberish. You kind of flip through it perhaps, and it's a bunch of surgical procedures that both would kill a person and then reanimate them.
She would take note of the title of the tome.
And it's would be processes of reinvigoration would be one of the subtitles that actually is understandable to you. The actual super title is written in some dialect of some intellectual language that would need deciphering from someone who actually knows it. The equivalent of Latin, let's say, in our world.
Right. Okay.
He returns and he sees that you are not on your chair. And also in Skandar that you have also not hopped on the chair either to have the rash ointment put upon you. As he comes out with this like a paintbrush, a bit of this like weird like capped jar, and a almost looks like to be some kind of like salt grinder. Kind of holding it, kind of bundled in his arms. All right, I got this for your rash.
Very good.
Do you have a mirror? I'd like to look at my face.
Oh, of course, yes. Just pull that string right there, and one will descend for you. So
She does.
Look at the glory in my work that I've done upon you.
Right.
A mirror would drop if you pull this cord.
Yeah, she would.
Kind of suspended and kind of swing a bit. And you'd see your face is completely cleaned up. No scars, no wounds. Even perhaps a blemish that you had earlier, or a scar that you had earlier, has actually been removed. Erased almost. It looks like someone took an eraser just to your, scars or warts or anything like that. Take a seat up there and prop up your leg for me. As he kind of sets down his tools on the one of the work tables.
Yeah, Scanner will do so and props up his leg and shows him the area.
He kind of like flicks it a bit, something like someone would do to like a glass vial, which actually kind of hurts a bit. What's your line of work, sir?
I'm a fixer.
Oh, yeah. Did you know that fixers have the third highest death rate amongst all the workers in the works here?
Oh, well, yes, I do. It's clear to me by the fact that many of my friends are no longer around.
Are you perhaps interested in the Mortician's special the Hereafter plan? Don't make your loved ones miss your departure, of course.
And what is that?
In the time of your perishing, you would be perishing, of course. You would continue to live and not be perished. It's quite a good deal, in fact. I'm looking forward to it myself when I pass, or when I would pass,
I think when I get closer to the shuffling of this particular coil, maybe I'll come back and examine that.
Could happen any day.
It certainly could.
Just make an account with us, and
I've been lucky so far.
luck also always runs out. Just remember, you're going to die soon.
Well, I wake up every
As he,
day thinking that, and
he,
then
grinds some weird crystal, and it actually burns. But as it burns, the sweat would kind of pour out of your skin, and the rash would literally pour away with the sweat as you have normal skin underneath.
well, thank you. Do you know anything about this white goo that I've seen on some of the walls? I was fixing something, and I slipped and I hit my leg against it. And this white sort of thing.
The cause of your rash?
Yes.
Well, that would explain why this worked the first time around. Normally, a rash like this, a rudimentary rash, would take at least 2 grindings, but this one is 1. Spire white. It's a strange infection that's taken a lot of people ill recently. It's kind of a bit of an obstacle, in my line of work.
I see. Obstacle why?
It often tries to undo my art form. Even after someone's been prepared and processed,
I see.
Do you?
No. Not really.
And he kind of wipes away with a weird greasy towel your leg, and a bit of hairs slough off too, leaving kind of literally a bare patch on your leg. All right, you're fixed up. She's fixed up.
Very kind of you. Lovely evening. He'll stand and as if to go.
Listen, about your brain idea. That's a good idea. Very good.
Well, thank you.
Does that...
Oh, and before you go, of course, I'll need the payment for this services rendered, of course.
I've got it. Don't worry.
No. This is a union job.
Are you saying you're with that lady? Oh, what's her name? Starts with a B. No, not a
Starts
B.
with a B, right? Yes, that's correct. It's on the tip of my tongue.
No, it's not that.
No, you're right. It's not that. It's so I almost have it.
What's her name? Do you remember?
It's
She's a
lady.
war criminal, wasn't she?
Lady.
Social. Oh
the
no!
one that you-
Oh, her name is Alice. Alice. You're with Alice?
That's you have to deal with her. Is that right?
Oh, that has been quite terminated as of recently. Surprised your foreman hasn't notified you of that.
Oh, well, I've come here without the silver to pay you, assuming that it was part of the deal.
No, unfortunately, as of 3 days ago, we've terminated all deals with
Aylis.
Alice. Yes, because of her unprofessional methods that she does.
I see. He says, looking at this man, like literal, like sentient taxidermy, and like the hideousness of his office. Well, that's unfortunate. I don't actually have the silver, and neither does my companion here. But it's all a misunderstanding. I'll speak to my foreman, and I'll come and pay.
And who would your foreman be exactly? I would like to speak to him myself.
That really won't be necessary.
I will be paid for my services, you know.
I'm certain that you will be, yes, but it won't be necessary for you to speak with my foreman. He said
Why
with like
not?
a bit more seriousness, and like not an aggressive, but just like a slight roll of a shoulder.
If you will not pay, then it will be him who pays. From your earnings, of course.
Of course, yes,
And I'll need
you're
to
quite
speak
right.
with him to secure this funds.
Well, I will pay in time. Just can't do it right now, you see. I'm sure you understand. Let's not make a big thing of this. He'll say it, you like
Then
Stan.
perhaps your wound will be healed in time.
You fixed it.
And he would like uncork this powder, and as he pours out the stuff that he had first applied to your wound, he pours it in the garbage, and you can see it actually as he pours it into like this trash, it kind of would, these little wisps would kind of fly out, and they all look morbid and sick and rashy themselves, and they would like pelt into your leg like a bunch of flies and mosquitoes, and as they land and splat, your rash would reappear.
I'm gonna grab him and headbutt him.
All right, you can make me a fight plus academia or occult roll here, please.
I don't have. Is it crime?
This is also a crime.
Okay.
That'll work too.
I feel like this is like the most basic D&D. I'm not paying for services, but like, I don't want any more misery. Okay, so I'm really good at fighting. Yeah, okay. All right, so I add them up, right?
No, take the highest one.
Okay, 8.
8. That is success. I was able to inflict a headbutt wound to him, which I believe unarmed is be one point of stress to him.
Yeah, I'm not intending to like kill him or anything. I just want him to realize that he can't make me sick again. And so I guess he like falls over, and then I'm just going to say to him, "Let's not get into this, all right? You're going to fix my leg. I'm going to come back in a few days and pay you." I'm going to try and compel him. Can I do that?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
Compel plus, I guess, crime, because you're literally just like stealing from him at this point.
Yes. Another 8.
All right. As he kind of like looks up, you realize that you've actually cracked his porcelain mask.
Oh, geez.
Oh dear. And he's more like, and you realize as he's touching it, he's scareder Or scarier. He's more scared of the fact that you broke his mask than he is of the fact that you headbutted him or aren't even paying him. Of course. I expect you here tomorrow with the money.
I'm glad we have an understanding. I'll be here when I can. He'll say with like a lot more fire in his voice. And there's probably a difference, like a noticeable, I think, like almost supernatural difference in when he starts to speak. Like there's such authority in it that I think like even Sarah would be like, whoa. And like maybe there's like this spectral like like music that like starts to swell, because when he gets like into it, it really is a thing. And so like once that's been established, he'll nod, and then he'll offer the man a hand up, and yeah, brush him off.
Of course. See you tomorrow. Kind of like almost growls a bit at you.
I'll see you when I see you. And then he'll like look at Saren to see if she's good with the situation, if she wants to do anything else here.
Saren just is by the door. She has her arms crossed. She knows better than to get into whatever Iskandar is. When he gets his mind set to something, she knows better than to get in between it. But you can see that she doesn't. She has this very disapproving look on her face. I think it's time to go.
Yeah, he's like smiling. He feels like he's done a good thing here, like asserting his dominance. He has to do that every now and then. And so he like looks at the doctor and gives him like one last nod, and then heads out the door.
Saren will catch up with him. And why didn't we just pay him? I had silver.
We'll need a lot more silver when we go up. If we pay this one, and we pay the next one we have to bribe, and we pay the other 6 we have to bribe to get up to the top, then we'll have no silver to bribe the person when we get there.
Yes, but if we ever injure ourselves again, we do spend a lot of time here. Do you think he'd be so welcoming?
Yes. I think he'll be extremely accommodating given what just happened. He now knows that I'm a person who can hurt him and is not afraid to do so without any provocation. It's a hard-learned lesson, but it's one that he'll remember, I think.
Right.
It's not all trumpets and red flags and brotherhood. A lot of it is punches in the guts and headbutts when they're not looking.
I suppose this is someone who tried to help us, not some scum or back alley dealer that we had to deal with. But, for the record, Zarin is in my head and she is cheering right now, so... Fine. You would know that Zarin is Saren's another cover that she has, who is this like 6'6" drow, who is like a basically like a bruiser type for criminals, like a mercenary type.
Yeah, I imagine that like Iskander gets on pretty well with Zarin, much more so than with Saren.
All right, so Saren, you can remove your bleeding fallout, but the both of you will suffer 2 shadow stress from this altercation. How long does your Lombre's grace last?
It just lasts until the it just says the scene, so I would assume it would have been done when we left the house.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So you guys take the full 2 shadow.
Okay.
And this might spur a fallout.
So if I can take it in both of my free slots, but I still have...
So if you're able to allocate both of this, the shadow, it's as if you got 0, which means I don't get to roll for you.
Oh, okay.
But Iskandar probably be less lucky.
So I have, it says like +1 shadow resistance. Does that mean my threshold is bigger?
Yeah, so I give you 2 shadow stress. You put one of those into your shadow slot. So you only actually suffer 1.
Okay.
But
Gotcha.
now it's full. Is now your slot there is filled.
Okay.
So now you would tally up all of your unallocated stress that isn't put into boxes.
Okay. So 4.
So I have to roll under a 4, which does not happen. You're good. He does not alert the guards to stay, though
Okay.
perhaps he'll whisper to his companions and friends and colleagues that a bruiser like you is probably less likely to be trifled with.
Did he fix my rash? Is that the?
Well, the end of that was
Oh,
the
right.
little sprites giving it back to you.
Yeah.
So you still
Okay.
have the rash. And unless either of you want to do something immediately, we'll hop scenes to Lycaos and Wexen.
Yeah, Saren just wants to start making her way. I don't know if Iskandar wants to come with her, but Saren wants to make her way to where she knows the handler's kin are.
Awesome.
I think Iskander will begin planning his journey to the very top of the spire to go speak with that other physician.
All right, cool. Your travel will be hindered, both of you, to go up Spire a bit by the fact that it is like sleeping hours. Probably best bet is in the morning. When
Yeah,
people start
I
to
guess he's
wake.
like more planning than anything else because it is like a pretty long journey. So he's trying to figure out like, since it's been so long since he's been up there, like what the best route is and that kind of thing.
Yeah. All right. The two of you, however, Wexen and Lycaos, you come upon the scene of your little shack of a hideout. Though something seems a bit amiss. The lock that is placed upon the door to it has been chewed open, and it seems snapped and broken. And there's sounds of rummaging and smashing and growling and inside.
Is that? Do you think it's Knoll or Gutterkin?
Probably Gutterkin. And Lycaos' hand is already like at the hilt of his god knife at this stage. And he'll kind of like half pull it from the sheath and kind of put the other hand on the handle. We can't let this stand.
All right.
Unless there's anything from Wexen that'll stop him. I want to try to, if I can, like sneak the door open to see if we can get the jump on whatever's in here. If they're too distracted, rummaging and being obnoxious.
Yeah, you can make for me, please, a sneak roll. I will give you the domain no matter what, because this is your hideout. You know this place very well, so you just have this domain no matter what.
Alrighty, and then I also, in this case, have a knack for sneaking up on people specifically.
Perfect. Yep, that'll apply here. Yep. So you have 4 dice total now.
4 dice.
Take the highest result.
Ooh, that is a 10.
All right, critical success. You're able to go to the door, open it a crack, and be able to see this whole scene without being noticed at all. But what you see is the whole place, your whole hideout, just been knocked over, vandalized by a dozen gutterkin, each shaped different, each a different species, but all are just disgusting and runty and probably filth covered. But the scene that you see are they almost seem to be fighting amongst each other, and like one's biting another gutterkin's arm with these long hooked teeth. But then it echoes in your mind as it happens. The echoes of gunshot ring in this place as one gutterkin pulls out a gun and shoots another dead. The blood kind of pooling down across something that's probably very important to you, like chaos. But now it's blood soaked by gremlin blood. And another Gutterkin pulls out his own gun and shoots the one that fired first, and all of a sudden, pew, 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 the whole place erupts in gunfire and teeth as they begin to full-on fight, destroying the place through their negligence and naivety. What do the two of you want to do as a Gutterkin riot or a Gutterkin rumble occurs within your hideout?
Yeah, like Chaos will just like wide-eyed, just like look over to Wexen, with just this disbelief across his face.
Let them kill each other?
Yeah, that was the plan. Basically, I want to kind of wait out the conflict to see how many survive. Because if there's only a couple, then I think we could absolutely end up cleaning up the rest of them.
You see one Gutterkin hide into the place that you sleep, Wexen, and he pulls up like the little covers. Another Gutterkin goes over and just starts peeing on it, and then as the Gutterkin trying to move away from the urine, the head peeks out and gunshot happens, blows his brains in, and the gore of a Gutterkin just seeps into the place that you sleep, Wexen. Another trio of Gutterkin are all in a strange tangled wrestle as they pry and bait, and one rips off the other one's arm in these big hooked teeth, and it just goes aimlessly near the entrance to the door that you're standing on. It's like this putrid, scar and wart covered arm of some kind of frog person lands kind of helplessly and kind of begins to flop at your feet, by your feet. And this rumble just continues to happen as gore becomes gore, and the things that you once had just become wrecked by either crossfire, abandon, or straight up, Gutterkin disgustingness. And the three of them stand covered in blood. They breathe in some of the gun fumes that have in this place. Another one begins to chew on something valuable to you, like Chaos. Perhaps, a frame of a picture that belongs to someone that you appreciate or fond, as he just chews on it as if it were, some kind of taffy.
Seeing that there's only 3 left, like Chaos will just like look over to Wexen from his like hidden point and just like raise the dagger as like a signal. And then using the sneak, I want to try to get in to next to this one who's chewing specifically on one of my possessions, and just try to run it through from its back.
Yeah, and this one is a child whose teeth are filed to points. Maybe not even a child, perhaps even just someone with stunted growth. Definitely drow though, as they're just chewing upon the thing that you value. As you can go ahead and give me fight plus the low society to attack this being.
Alrighty, I have both of those, and then also because again, this is like what I've made myself to do. So I have a fight knack as well against unaware targets.
Perfect.
What
4
I
dice.
chose. So, Jesus Christ, that's another 10. These D10s are doing work.
How many 10s did you roll?
Just one.
Just the one. Okay, so you inflict 1 extra stress with this attack. How much does your weapon deal?
God knife is a D3.
All right, you get to roll a d3 and add 1 because you rolled a critical success.
That's a 6 on the die, so that'll be 3. So that'll be 4 stress.
4 stress. I believe that's enough to do in a Gutterkin. I will just quickly verify. Yep, that's enough to do him in. As you're able to undo all of his resistance, you can tell me how you do so.
Yeah, I imagine there's just like this huddle of these last remaining Gutterkin. One of them's like this, small one is gnawing on this frame, and then the other Gutterkin will just like hear this like, as this thing is like chewing on the frame, the back of the knife will just like come through the back of its jaw and like into its mouth as he just like runs it through the back of its skull.
And this one was probably the most humanoid or drowoid looking of them all, as the other one is just this hooked teeth, just bent backed creature that perhaps is a hunchback of some strange goblin race. And then the other one is this strange salamander kobold thing that has no legs, so perhaps like a snake with arms that kind of like crawls on the across the floor in a scalier fashion, and they're just like rummaging in your stuff. Wexen, what do you do?
As Lycaos is approaching the drow-like creature to run him through, I'll pull out my gun and wait for him to kill his Gutterkin, and then I'll shoot at the salamander-like one.
Awesome. Give me that fight plus low society.
So I don't have fight, but I do have low society.
Awesome. Your domain is killing Gutterkin. Yes. You roll 2 dice.
8.
8 is a success. You get to inflict your stress of your gun.
4.
That's also enough to do this one in. How do you do so?
So as the 2 remaining Gutterkins see their buddy get run through, I'll just take this advantage to like kick open the door with my foot and just blow away a chunk from the face of the other one.
And lastly, this bent back, hooked teeth, goblin, wide-eared creature looks up like there's literally a piece of another Gutterkin in its teeth. This like strange like bullywug frog creature whose flesh is green and slimy looks up to you like Chaos and looks to you, Wexen, with like these eyes that actually probably like diverge, so it looks at you at the same time. There's an audible like flatulent slash sound of it kind of pooping itself as it scurries away underneath a desk that you have here to try and hide from your onslaught. You can give me a pursue roll here, Jeff. You want to just like go up and just get it?
So yeah, actually, if I can, I want to try to tie it up rather than kill it. Because if these
Okay.
things found this place through any method other than chance, I think that we want to know about that.
All right. So this one's a slippery little bugger. He's going to try and evade all kind of approach you do to this thing.
Yeah, I
So
do
this will
have
be a
pursue. Yeah.
pursue plus low society.
I have both of those things. I swear I'm. It's gonna sound like I'm cheating. That's 2 10s.
All right. So this is a critical success. You get to. You've caught it now, and perhaps even like lassoed it a bit with your god rope, and it is bound for all intents and purposes. It's like trying to chew on the rope.
Yeah, so I'm gonna make sure to keep the rope low enough on its body that its teeth can't get to it, and then I'm gonna tie it in a knot. And I actually have a feature here, secretive binding, where if I tie a knot in one of my ropes, it can literally not be untied by anyone or anything other than me.
And it like you can see that it actually probably has a little bit of a prehensile tail that looks like a weird stunty vestigial thing, and it's trying to like pick at it, but to no avail. You see it like with one eye, like looks over and like it eyes its own gun that's like, or maybe not even its own gun, just a gun that's like lying on the ground. And it's trying to like reach it with like a wide stumpy foot.
Yeah, I'll kick it. I'll kick the gun away so that it like clatters across the floor. And then like take the dagger and just like put it and like point it up towards this thing's neck. How did you find this place?
You're just looking around frantically, knowing full well that you're probably very upset with it.
You're going to have a very painful death if you don't start talking.
Meathead!
I'll just like look over to Wexen and like hope that that means something to him.
If I recall correctly, Snubnose was maybe telling me about Meathead, or was he telling me about Knobbly?
Snubnose definitely said all of those words
Yeah.
in your encounter with him, and so the word meathead would definitely ring familiar when this goblin-y gremlin creature with split eyes and says it in a very panicked way. Meathead.
I'll like make eye contact with Lycos, like, yep, I think I know what he's talking about. And I will like play good cop here and go up to the Gutterkin. It's okay. All you have to do is take us to him, and we'll let you go. And I'll caress his face with my pistol.
You like the nose begins to like flare up as you bring the metal of the gun close, as he tries to smell your gun. And like a long forked tongue would like stack out and like go inside the barrel of the gun and like lick up the residue gunpowder inside the gun. The thing is just hyperventilating. Meathead.
Do you want this? I'll say, like, showing him the gun. I'll give you this if you take us to Meathead.
Struggles against the bindings.
Can he walk with these bindings, Lycos?
Yeah, I imagine that it's mostly like kind of
Yeah.
tying the arms down to the chest, so that like I could probably even tie it in such a way where we have like a little bit of slack that it would be like tied to it, like lasso style, basically.
Meathead. You're not actually sure if it knows any other words, but besides meathead.
Yeah, like here's we'll just give Wexen this like raised eyebrow look of just like, is this even worth it? Like, is meathead enough for us to figure out, or do we need this thing to take us to it?
I'm not sure who Meathead is. So I think we need him to take us to it.
Yeah, like Chaos will just let out a long sigh at having to deal with this creature even more than the couple seconds that they've already had to. It's like already too much. And he'll just like yank on the rope, like lurch this creature off, like probably off its feet or whatever. You're going to take us to this meathead.
Meathead.
Now.
He like tries to stand up. Meathead. And like looks at you, but only with one eye, because the other eye is like looking around the room, maybe for something tasty, maybe for something to use for its escape, maybe for something that you don't even know, like what goes through the mind of a Gherkin.
Do you
Looked
think
at you with one of its eyes.
Meathead? And I'll like answer, and I'll kind of say that out loud and then look towards this Gutterkin, and I'll like point to me, and I'll point to Lycos, and I'll be like, Meathead?
Meathead. Kind of like squirms a bit in the bindings. Uses its like little stubby toes to like scratch the other leg. It uses its forked tongue to kind of like worm itself up its nose and lick whatever it finds up in there.
Is this typically how communication with Gutterkin go? Or
Gutterkin lie on a spectrum, you found, Wexen, with your dealing with Snubnose. Some of them can hold a conversation pretty well. Some of them don't have the ability to talk and understand speech. Some can chitter in their own language. Some like to gravitate to a few words. It's this full spectrum. Like Gutterkin is just a broad term for like any kind of gremlin-y folk that are not worth kind of like paying any attention to. in society.
I don't even know if I would have the means to tell, but would there be any way of trying to judge this thing's comprehension? Like, even if it can't respond with any more words than meathead, does it seem to display any sort of like, you're saying words to me and I can know what that means? Or is it just like totally.
You know that it recognized it when you were like yelling at it, and like it kind of flinched when you said words. And it's always been responding to things that you say, but it always just says meathead, or it like squirms in there, or like licks something, or bites at its own lips or something.
I'm gonna try to push this thing along just a little bit, and just say, like directly and forcefully, like take us to meathead now. And I'm gonna like jab the point of the dagger in to its back, not enough to like deal actual damage, but enough that it'll hurt and draw a little bit of blood.
Meathead, and it'll like hobble like almost like a penguin out the front door of your little hideout.
Yeah, so I'm basically just going to keep doing this where I literally like use the dagger as like a prod to like make sure this thing keeps walking and hope, all the while kind of keeping a hold on the rope. And I'll actually tie the rope in a knot like around my wrist and still like grab hold of it, so that it can't like yank the rope out of my hand or anything stupid.
And this gutterkin almost seems to have resigned to its fate of being bound. Sometimes it'll just treat it like almost like a well-trained dog on a leash, of like kind of pressing away, but then realizing, oh yeah, no, I'm on a leash, and just being almost normal with it after a bit. It'll sit down on its rump and lean over and like lick its own toes, lick off the dirt that's it's been walking on, and then kind of look around and realize that you're probably poking it, and then hop up and look around with its weird chameleon style eyes that hop up on some rubble and go up a weird sewage pipe that's only accessible to things that are very small. If you were to follow it, you have to like almost like army crawl through this smaller pipe. That's like still like weird brown water is kind of leaking out of it from somewhere, probably a little bit higher up.
I imagine that this sort of thing is actually not something that like, it's not entirely novel to like Chaos to have to like crawl through weird pipes and tunnels to like do what he's done to the past. So he'll grin and kind of bear the misery of it in order to see this through.
Oh, oh, these things are so gross. Oh, how did they live like this? Just despicable creatures. Oh, wetness the whole way.
We'll need to deal with it if we have any sort of hope for any answers. If information about our hideout is open in any sort of forum, we need to make sure that it's shut down.
And as it rounds a corner in the sewageway, as it's like a little T intersection, it kind of like looks down both passages with each eye, sniffs both ways, and then goes one way, and it keeps going. And after a bit, it starts calling out the word meathead quite frequently, whether it's making a song, whether it's just really found out that it really likes the word or not. Keeps just like meathead, 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 almost like a broken record. That just like, and it's a squealing sound. I cannot actually replicate it with my own human vocal cords, but it just grates. You can imagine your ears probably begin to bleed a bit as you continue down this like narrow sewage pipe where it just echoes and vibrates all around you.
We gotta shut this thing up before it lets every piece of scum down here know that we're coming.
Yeah, like Chaos will just like nod and like with a probably much too forcible yank, some of the anger and frustration of this situation manifesting, like pull on the rope like quite hard, like yank this thing back towards him, and then like use the like tip of the dagger to like shut this thing's mouth up, basically, and force it closed, or else they like pierce through it.
It keeps like going through, making his mouth as small as possible to keep making sounds. But eventually, after a long, painful, headachingly long, uh, slimy crawl through these narrow sewage pipes, it opens up as well. You see that this place is a bit drier. The drips begin to fall out as this sewage pipe comes to an end into a larger room layered with this meshwork. Perhaps it was an old factory, but its derelict has fallen apart. It's rusted. Water drips from the ceiling. There's a bit of rubble and actual rock and stone and weird spire white just growing everywhere around it in small clumps. Long strands even that hang almost like drool just hanging from the ceiling of this place. There's lots of like actual other pipes, almost like an organ, like the instrument, kind of just like all throughout this place. So this doesn't look like this place was ever meant to inhabit people or to be walked upon by people. More like some kind of way to push air in and out or water in and out or something. But it kind of jumps down this 6-foot drop, and like its drop rings out like an echo through this larger chamber. Meathead! It would call out one last time. Do you follow it down into this chamber?
Yeah, Lycaeus would kind of give a quick scan to kind of see where we're dropping into, and if there's like, if there are signs of like tracks or anything, like how many. He's wary that they might be accidentally walking into like a den of these things. But depending on what he sees, yeah, he would drop down.
You see that this creature is like bending over and sniffing what looked to be like a pile of soiled clothes. Meathead! It like kind of like jumps up and down a bit excitedly, and then like urges to go down one of these smaller paths. That's still like you'd still have to like crawl through. It's like trying to pull you in. But otherwise, this place, besides there's a bit of soiled clothes in that one corner, but otherwise there seems to be no sign of residents of these things. Though the place is so grimy, whether that's caused by Gutterkin and their fecal art, or just the actual place in decay and in despair, you really don't know. You have no real knowledge of these creatures.
Yeah, unless Wexen goes out of his way to stop or change course, I'll keep going.
Wexen will reluctantly follow.
And as the two of you drop down, the creature, this little goblin, turns in its tracks to look at you. And it has a wide mouth, but then it goes wide, almost filling up its entire face. And it smiles, showing off its piranha-like teeth. As the eyes begin to like go in and just like hone in and actually focus on you like chaos. And all of a sudden you hear above you, twang, 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 as you'd see above you, Wexen. You haven't quite actually begun to crawl down. Almost like descending, suspended by ropes and strings, 4 Gutterkin wielding guns that kind of hang and have them pointed at you, maybe 3 feet above you. And all of a sudden, you see popping their heads out of the many little holes Gutterkins with spears, some with guns that are all aimed at you. Meats, 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 one calls out. And we'll shift scenes.
It's a trap!
Saren, you wanted to track down your the kin of your handler, correct? And so it is deep into the night, but perhaps you could probably find some information at one of the speakeasies in the works, a place where people go after the long shifts. Have a few drinks of alcohol. Even in the back corners, have some malic to smooth the tongue and the mind. Though it is quite illegal here, it's still quite common. And you would know that perhaps he has family here in the works. Distant, however, but enough that you could probably, get a bit of information. You do know, Drow are quite familial. The phrase "How's your family" is important for many different reasons. One of it is because they value their own family and their kin and their cousins.
Yeah, I think that Saren also wants to know where he is, because she hasn't seen him since the durance ended, so he might have gone and done something else. So she wants to try and find out, A, where he is, and B, how to contact him.
And so you look around, and this cousin of your dealer, you don't even remember his name at this point, but remember his appearance. Something very, very memorable about what he looked like. And what was that, Megan? What was something memorable about his appearance?
But the
cousin.
Oh, the cousin.
When you saw him in passing, just something burnt into your memory about when your handler and his cousin just met up, perhaps crossed in the street, and they exchanged words, and you learned of their relationship.
From working in the works, he had an accident. A piece of metal got gouged into his shoulder. But right where his neck is, in between where his neck meets his shoulder. And the mortician said if they took it out, he would bleed to death. So they cauterized metal to skin. And so now all that's left is this, he has this like huge, almost growth-looking thing, but it's metal. And it has this circular metal ends surrounded by skin.
Mm-hmm. And so he's a bit of a hunchback too in this case. Hard time getting work. Can't do much lifting anymore. So he's spends his time here down in the works doing whatever simple jobs he can. He's not here in the drinking section. As you part the curtain, however, the smell of Malik hits your nose as the vapor in the pipes hits your nose. This is the Malik den, and you see him forgetting his sorrows and his pains as he puffs in. Malik breathes out heavy mist. There's one other person in here with him, sharing this Malik with him, and they're having what idle conversation they can have while under this high.
Saren would sit down. She would turn to him. Hello. How's your family?
Family. Yes. Good yours?
She just nods. Don't know if you remember me. My name is Saren, and I worked with one of your cousins, Dramzir.
Did you?
Yes, we met once before.
Oh. No. Okay.
I'm wondering if you know where he is.
Last I heard from him was new job. Working with sky whales, I think. Why am I telling you this?
We were friends. And I'd like to... You see, my parents recently died, and I'm just wanting to make some connection, any connection.
Now he's up in the sky whale docks.
Thank you.
Sorry about your family.
She just nods again.
And your face gets filled with that mist.
Tries not
By
to.
accident. He's not doing it deliberately.
Yeah, she tries not to inhale You have a good night.
Then he goes back to just like kind of just lounging again. He didn't really seem to be at all discomforted. You do know that Malik numbs the mind, puts you in almost like a half sleeping state. It's a great narcoleptic, a great way to pass away your stress. So that's while under the influence, he was very much easier to get information from in this case.
So, was there no... Where are the sky wheels?
It's the sky whales.
Whales.
They're these massive, bloated creatures that fly in the sky, propelled and suspended by some kind of gas that's inside their organs and bladders. You've heard that these sky whales, they cart in goods from elsewhere throughout the realm and bring them up to the top of the spire. So the docks themselves will be literally at the highest point of the spire in New Heaven.
Okay. So then she would, I guess, yeah, go make her way back to the hideaway.
And you'd come back to a scene that of just this ruined mess. The place is unlocked, though closed. Things are toppled over. There's piss and shit everywhere. Things are broken. There's blood and gore, and even corpses everywhere of Gutterkin, numerous, a dozen of them. Skandar, you come across the scene a few minutes, perhaps like 10 minutes after Saren does, as you've finished your planning and your routing, and come back, perhaps.
My first impulse would be, did they hide the stuff? And is it here? The brain, and that kind of stuff? Or does it, like, I guess it would look like they've been captured, right? Because it's like all this, like, it's all ruined and our friends aren't here and they were supposed to come here.
And there is no sign of the brain in the jar, nor the fabric of the wallpaper reality that Chaos had.
There was that gun, though, that he had kicked away.
Yes, there are many guns literally on the floor, maybe 4 of them. Each of them carved in to be the Helionite Church of the Gun.
Yeah, she would look for that stamp.
Iskander will squat down and like look in the shit and see if he can find tracks or anything that leads away from here, and just begin looking for like any signs of the struggle.
And yeah, you kind of look amongst the footprints in the gore and viscera and the urine and the debris inside this place, and you see that there are muddy footprints that lead out. A 3-toed, stumpy little footprint that kind of walks out and up into a strange pipe up into the ceiling. And it's like there's literal piles of mud that have been created by this footprint. Except on a further investigation, you realize it is not mud, this brown substance. Walking in.
Disgusting.
Gutterkin. And guns. I don't know.
Was it an accident? Or did something lead them here? We don't have time. We should go. They've obviously gone somewhere. Through this pipe, it looks like.
All right. You go ahead. I have to talk with Brother Mateus. He'll know some stuff about where they've gone.
You should come. What if there's danger?
I will be right there. 5 minutes.
All right. He'll, against his will, go into this shit pipe.
And so Iskandar disappears into that shit pipe as the army crawls through it, leaving behind Saren discussing with Brother Mateus. What does that sound like as Iskandar leaves that behind? What does he hear?
You hear, Iskandar, two voices where there was only Saren arguing with each other. You hear the voices become raised, and you can hear both Saren's and Brother Mateus's voice. And she is going to be asking him where they would have taken, where the Gutterkin would have taken them if they had captured.
Brother Mateus would know nothing beyond. They live everywhere and around everywhere. They live in the ground, in the ceiling, in the walls, in trash cans. There's a whole underworld and a whole city complex inside our own city of Gutterkin. And he'd know this only because of being able to the knowledge of selling, or I guess recruiting gunners, Gutterkin as gunners to the church.
And all right, I think he would tell. Maybe he would tell her about Brother Drez, who is exclusively dealing with the Gutterkin.
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of the person in charge of, or at least that was he's
spearheading the missionary attempt.
So, not being too pleased with that answer, she's going to follow soon after Iskandar.
And as you crawl into that shit pipe, falling behind Iskandar, that's where our game is gonna come to a close. So everyone, thank you very much for playing a game of Spire. It's fun. We'll see what happens when we pick up the game next session, how much blood will be spilled, and how they will deal with having an army of Gutterkin surrounding them, and how far behind their fellow ministers are. We will go through the process of what kind of refreshes anyone does get from this session, if they hit them at all.
No, went super hard.
I feel like I did something reckless for the sake of a story in trying to
climbing up those stairs.
Yeah. But also, I haven't taken any stress.
Oh, so it's kind of a moot point there.
Yeah.
Does the Gutterkin I killed in our base count as bringing a criminal to justice?
Well, Gutterkin are literally criminals. Yes. So, unfortunately, as a bound, you are also obligated to kill, genocidally speaking, every single Gutterkin you come across. Or at least bring them all to justice in some way. So yeah, unfortunately, Gutterkins are pretty small potatoes in terms of crime. You'd feel like your best bet would be something a bit more larger scale or more elaborate, but this does count for you as a refresh. It'll be your smallest refresh possible, since Gutterkin is the smallest shitheads possible.
So what does that mean?
You can roll a D3 and recover that many stress.
Ooh. 1 stress off. All right,
you can get rid of any 1 point of stress, which includes any stress that is marked inside boxes. You also have to get rid of your extraneous stress before you can get rid of any that's in slots.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll reduce one of my silver stresses. And imagine that could easily just be like, we take some of the guns that they dropped, and that's money in some form.
Absolutely.
Mine's really hard. I have to take something back from someone who oppresses me, and I don't know when that's ever going to happen. I feel like it's way harder, and I'm not like, that guy did not oppress me, the doctor, and maybe my future self who sold out and built an opera using mechanical brain slaves oppressed me in some way, but
you oppress me psychologically.
Yeah.
I don't want that to be my only possible future. I don't want to be the slave to my own future. This is oppression. But you, Megan, how's your refresh? It's what, like, deceive someone, right?
And no, it's gain advantage over someone else by posing as someone you're not. It's very specific, and I did not do that.
Did not do any kind of doppelgangery stuff this session.
Not this
All right,
session.
so it
No.
seems like Jeff is the one that got to refresh the most from this, as he's going towards what he finds to be a hobby and relaxing, undoing that stress he does. All right, cool. That'll be the wrap of this session, as we'll play in 2 weeks on the 25th. And so Iskandar will not be there, which means he might take a wrong turn down a pipe and then somewhere where he shouldn't be for the time being.
Yep.
All right, so it'll just be the 3 of you guys, minus Lloyd, next session. So hopefully no one dies too hardly. With that being said, this was Mini Terrain Domain playing Spire, The City Must Fall. Thanks so much for watching in the future, in the past, and in the present. And we will wrap this up. Have a good night, everyone.